Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fight Night Rising. Back once again on set 4.5. Going to see if the players have adjusted to any of these set 4.5 happening so far. A lot of talk around the players,
Yeah.
but yeah, Boop alongside with me tonight as always. How are you doing tonight?
I'm re-rolling. That's what
Yep.
that's what I'm doing tonight, and I'm sure a lot of players are going to be doing some re-roll comps today. That's definitely going to be something that we're going to be speaking on, and I'm sure we're going to speak on it quite a lot in terms of interpretations of things that are happening around town in the TFT world. But first, we got some really good games. It doesn't take away from the skill of any of these players.
Oh yeah, speaking of players, let's go ahead and introduce them. We got returning champion in Phoenix, 3 first places in a row last week. That is no small feat indeed. And they were still hard on themselves. So hey, maybe they're gonna go for the 4 wins in a row. Who knows? But of
Who
course, joining
knows?
them again from last week is Laplace Tails, IceBarriers, and welcoming back BKrisz, the Jirachy, Raye, the Pikachu, and Single Persona.
A lot of very familiar names, not in like the upper echelon tier 1 TFT community, but definitely in like the tier 2 or like what would be equal to like the collegiate community
Yeah.
here in TFT. Iceberry Jirachy, one of them, Single Persona, another person. Actually, a couple victims of the 3-week curse here with us today. So we'll see if they're going to be able to get another try at it.
Definitely, and they get another try at their share of the prize pool as well. Of course, $200 in total. First place, $100. Second place, 50. Third and fourth, 25. And the top 3 will be invited back for next week, per usual. But it's always nice to get a little bit of money when you're competing in TFT. Supports you and your endeavors here, especially if you want to make it through past Rising and reach that tier 1 echelon of players. Event that I casted earlier on this week is getting me more hype for TFT. Definitely with all these qualifiers going on, reaching towards the end of the year, there's so much good TFT action. I'm glad that we get to see some up and comers coming from Fight Night Rising because man, that new mono storyline was
I
insane
know. And retired. We wrapped it
and
up within
retired.
we wrapped it up within like an actual esports year, which is like 3
Yes.
weeks. You know what I mean? So Numano came out of nowhere, had literally like 80 followers on Twitter, right? Comes into Fight Night Rising, wins 7 weeks in a row. You got to add hobos to this as well. They kind of did it together.
Yeah.
Now has over 2,000 followers, moving on to a different game. And I think none of it would happen without the possibility of this community here propping not only Numano up as a TFT player, but a more confident person moving on through life. So that's really, really cool too. So it's not just Numano, it's you got hobos. And I think there are a couple players here right now. I've actually had my eye on Jirachy for a while in terms of people who I think might be able to make the next step, people I know who are grinding, and they are absolutely checking all of those boxes to reach that next step. So definitely going to be looking at Jirachy and Single Persona today for the same reason.
Definitely, that's why I bring up the kind of Numano example there. Started right here, Fight Night Rising, 1, 6, 7 weeks in a row, had an insane run, and grinded to be definitely one of the best in TFT, at least in North America. Getting second place in a tournament of that caliber is no small feat. Losing out to GV8, but GV8's one of NA's greatest
GBA.
for sure. Yeah,
He
but
was one of the
here,
first.
exactly.
And something else that I kind of wanted to mention, and a little bit of a hashtag not so humble brag for us, is we called the Numano thing literally the first time we saw him. We
Yeah,
were
we
like,
did.
we were like, this player is really good. And so when we see that type of thing again here, it's going to be, I think, even more obvious to us who can actually make it past this moment and get second place to, GV8, right?
Yeah.
Which is a huge deal.
Oh yeah.
So one of those players coming back from the last week was very hidden kind of along the pack, was Laplace, played pretty flexibly. No one was really doing reroll comps last week. We had a couple of those Warlord comps last week, but nothing as
Yeah.
popular and as written in the code as it has been in terms of the ladder over the last week. So definitely going to be seeing some reroll comps, and we'll talk about the intricacies and nuances of how right now that seems to be pretty powerful over econing and saving your money up until later, because a lot of people are rolling down at 3-2 right now.
Yeah, a lot of people rolling down at 3-2. Some people even hyper rolling right after Krog's at 3-1 for their reroll one cost based compositions. A lot of people slow rolling as well, but yeah, actually I think it's a good time to go over what's popular in the
Yeah.
meta. And it is reroll in all shapes and forms. It can be around Wukong, it can be around Nasus, it can be around Nidalee, sometimes even randomly Tristana. That's not as popular of a one. But then you get over just the one cost, and it's like I reroll Zed, I reroll Shyvana, you reroll everything, get them to tier threes. If it's not that, Kale is definitely shown herself to be very dominant, coming back as the kind of Kale of old, set three vibes definitely there. And yeah, she's been really strong as well. But a lot of players, like there's been more and more re-rolling happening like every single day, it feels like, into
Mhm.
now it's maybe like half the lobby and a lot of games are. We'll see if these players in this game will kind of stick true to that pattern. And I think it's likely, but we'll have
That's a
to
good
see.
Those are two good units for our friend
Oh yeah.
Laplace here to start with, either for the gold or to put in a better sharpshooter. Sivir is going to be better in almost every way than Tristana right now, because it gives you attack speed, and with the Shyvana on the field, attack speed is very, very nice. And talking about those reroll comps a little bit, I think what a big kind of talking point is how you're supposed to play TFT. Right, like what is supposed to be the way to play TFT. And something that's going on right now that's actually very interesting is that beginners, at least the beginners that I know that are playing, are having a blast on this set. They love it because they can go after Warlord 9 and they can see the different colored, box on the screen and find
Yeah.
success out of that, right?
Mhm.
However, there is that other side, which is how hard should it be to hit that, right? And we're
Yeah.
not here to solve that problem. What we are here to talk about is, okay, the differences between our friends who are beginners, who will go for those static comps, will go for the jeweled comps at the end, the mage sevens, the warlord nines, right? But there's always going to be a group of people who are actively trying to work against that meta, right?
Uh-huh.
There's always going to be those people. And we saw it a couple weeks ago in qualifying when Talon got second and first in the very last set 4 tournament, right? So we could also see that happen. Maybe things aren't set in stone quite yet, but reroll golden comps are very strong right now. And if you like spending money, now's the time to play some TFT.
Yeah, exactly as you referred to. It's we're not here to solve the why the meta is what it is, but I suppose to further elaborate on that and offer some insight. Generally, in the beginning of sets, people don't really know what to play. They don't know how to improve the compositions to get them to the exact perfect spot. So rerolling is often just an easy thing to do. That's why we saw Bonky Kong succeed in the beginning of set 4 and comps like that. It was just strong because it's very clear direction. Something else that's clear direction, as you mentioned, is going for those 7-piece 9-piece end of game synergies, and those are really important now because the carries benefit a lot more from their supporting synergies like Warlord, like
Mhm.
Elderwood, like Mage, than just other supporting
Exactly.
units. So yeah, that's why we see a lot of these. I think as well, the because of that same philosophy, you can re-roll around the one cost or even two cost units more because there are better synergies that are easier to go and support those kind of carries better. So it's kind of a combination of a lot of things. We still might see the meta develop in a couple weeks, few weeks, maybe a month. That even without too many changes to the re-rolling champions, that see them kind of rotated out a little bit, but it's hard to say. The players
Yeah.
create the meta in TFT. If everyone's doing it, that's going to be the meta until someone challenges that and finds a way to counter it. Then it's just going to remain that way.
Exactly, and, the thing I always keep going back to, as we're already seeing adjustments in play here, from Laplace not being at 10 gold, right? Usually by 2-4, everyone's at 10 gold. Everyone kinda spending money. Yeah, the character orbs, for Laplace did kind of force your hand a little bit to spend on some 3-cost units, but it's kinda like I only have a sister, and my mom had a very hard time finding food for the 2 of us, right? Like, that we would both like, and I
Yeah.
think that what Mort's trying to do is that times millions of people. And so
Oh yeah.
it
It's
is
it's difficult.
it is, it is very, very difficult. And we're experimenting and we're rubber banding, I think, between who really gets the benefit of design. I don't know if you saw, but there's a lot on tap for next set. They did mention that set 5 is going to be an advanced set.
Yep.
And so that's going to be really cool to see what the difference is, right? To see where we go from here, which a lot of people are saying, oh, it's a little bit more user friendly to a set that's going to be a little bit more geared towards the higher usage audience. And that's going to be an interesting dichotomy to see. But enough
Yeah.
about the future, enough about philosophy. Let's go ahead and talk about BKrisz right now, who is, I think, here for the first time in like set 2. Maybe
It's been a
beginning of set
while.
3.
Maybe set. I think it was set 3, but either way, it has been a minute since we've seen BKrisz there in the black and white camera. It looks like coming out of like a noir film right now.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
But yeah, 100 HP in the lobby. The only other person to do that is the Jirachy there. Both on a win streak, and we get the enlightened chosen Fiora, and this is a unit that is very, very strong in the early game, can honestly take you to like a level 7 or even level 8 sometimes without having to be too concerned of your HP. But BKrisz right now, in fact, is selling the Fiora in favor of putting in the Keeper, Elderwood, and Mage. It's a lot of good synergies in there. And Elise actually notably was changed in a recent patch, so she'll now be doing some mana reaving in exchange for having a little bit less HP on that transform, I believe.
It doesn't feel like that much of a difference, but it's definitely causing some early game differences in terms of ultimate usage. And we're going to go ahead and use the Declaw too on the Elise so we can get the benefit of the mana reave. The good thing is it's only on one person, and so instead of 3 ults, this Wukong is going to get 1, right? But the rest of the team is going to be able to back it up anyway. Something that before he sold the Fiora is putting Ludens on a lot of these 1-cost units at this point, and even and a lot of 2-cost units is such a good item to slam early on, especially as you said, at least even had an HP loss to compensate. So these Ludens procs are going to be pretty huge. And I think what this really speaks to is just the increase of power in 1-cost units in set 4.5 so far.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you've got the Nasus. Everyone has played a Nasus carry game at some point. You kind of like fall into it at times. The same thing with Yasuo, right? Yasuo doing all right as a 1-cost unit,
Yeah.
but the power level of these specific 1-cost units is strong, not because 1-cost units are stronger, is because we're seeing the 3-cost versions of those 1-cost units sooner. And so when you're re-rolling for things like Warlord and stuff like that, you're inherently going to pick up those lower cost units that you otherwise might have given away to Econ. Now you're going to be spending and trying to gold up those Warlords, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And really good that you bring that up. It reminds me as well, when everyone's rerolling, it actually makes it better for everyone as well, because you're taking those 1-cost units out of the pool, making it easier for when you're rolling to hit your 1-cost. And speaking of Tristana, or the rerolling, there is a Tristana, and I wasn't sure if we would see a Tristana reroller here, but we do. So I am curious, and seeing how that functions at least later on into the game. Probably when you hit your your 3-star, excuse me, carry on 3-1, you should be strong enough to win a lot of the rounds here. But still on BKrisz for now, and BKrisz going to be winning this round. It looks like the Giant Slayer was slammed on Elise, and that is an item this patch that a lot of players are prioritizing. It is very, very strong. They even go as far as to prioritize it over like say the other just items, like say you can put it on a Kale in exchange for a Rage Blade. You can put it on things like Shyvana. You can put it on Olaf as opposed to the Death Blade, things of the sort there. But Krisz now moving up to 5 mage, 6 mage technically, but only has the 5 mage buff so far.
I feel like there needs to be like smoke coming up from a screen or something to like give him the
Yeah.
illusion that he's like in a club or like smoking a cigar. He looks like very like high class perfume commercial or cologne commercial right now. You know what I mean? All
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
compliments, by the way. That's just when I see a screen, I think of commercials, and not not any other better media. But Krisz is going to go up against this Tristana,
Yep.
and we have a Dragon Soul player for the first time today, and that's going to be really good against someone with that Declaw or I like to call Cringe Claw, because I hate it. It makes me cringe because I never build it, but other people do, and they can find a lot of success out of it. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting to see also how we've already switched our main tank 3 times now. We started with Fiora Chosen, then we went with the Elise, and then now we're going with the Annie. So what does that kind of tell you in terms of where Chris's decision making is right now?
It looks like it's just trying to play strongest board, trying to identify what decisions can I make every single round to get me just a little bit stronger, preserve that HP. I think that the move from Elise to Annie is correct, but I think the move from Fiora to the Elise in the first place, honestly, was a bit preemptive. I think Fiora could have carried BKrisz for a bit longer there, but neither here nor there at this point. Got to live with your decisions, and this decision for now looking pretty solid. Will net BKrisz a win in this round. No win streak here, but also gonna deny any sort of streak from single persona as well. But I actually am curious after this carousel to check in with the Jirachy, because they are the only person right now still at 100 HP, and you got to have a really good board at this point, and you're level 7 as well, actually, well before anybody else in the lobby. The fastest people generally level to 7 is going to be after this carousel round, but doing it before means you're really trying to protect that win streak.
I mean, when you're spending so much money, one of the only ways to continue that win streak, like to continue an economy, is to win streak. So it is a little risky. You can make the argument that it is a little riskier than normal to try to push a win streak that hard, especially with everyone re-rolling, right? Where everyone might have an opportunity to take a win off you depending on how they roll, right?
Yeah.
So what Jirachy is doing is maintaining the course, right? We also have our lucky lantern for today, and it's going to be 2 reforgers. This is by far the most, I think, one of the more popular lucky lantern items, definitely more popular than loaded dice. And Jirachy is going to have to make some decisions here. They have a lot of stuff on the board. They've got a lot of good items, but those items might not last because the reforger is there. But also, where are we going to go from here, right? We have a lot of different openings, and which path we take will really show how good of a player and how much Jirachy has grown themselves.
Definitely. And just looking at this board, it is very strong. There's a lot of units, they provide a lot of very key synergies, I suppose I'll say. Like even things like 2 Divine to buff up the front line. 2 Sharpshooter, of course, is just an Italy chosen, but Siphoner, as well as that everyone's healing a little bit, 3 Warlord to complement it. There's a lot of good stuff going on here for Jirachy's board, and because of that, they are going to be win streaking with a 9 win streak right now, 52 gold. This is going very, very well so far. I am kind of surprised, I suppose, not to see the cloak be slammed onto a QSS, but maybe they have different plans for that in the future. I think the most popular use as well of item reforger is going to be just reforge single components, and as opposed to a full item, because you don't know what you're going to get out of the item. It might be completely useless, but as a component, it's more controlled. You're going to be like, okay, I want this. If I don't get it, I don't have to commit it to that specific item. I can still, wait until wrapped around, carousel to get something else and make it into an item that I do want at that point. Sometimes you do leave it until the end, and it's like, all right, this item's pretty useless in this fight. So like, you're running a D-Claw, and there's no magic users left in the game. So you're like, all right, reforge, boom, let's get me something useful.
Or you could be like me and have best in slot KL items on Kindred, think that it's actually the other item that one
item remover, magnetic remover.
Exactly, magnetic remover, and get 2 redemptions instead. Or you could do that like it happened to me. So friends, family, everyone watching, I feel your pain, and you're welcome for your LP. As Jirachy now going to be taking that LP that I donated and taking it to the rest of this lobby. 100 HP already, 35 at the bottom. So something that we actually haven't talked about yet is pace of game with reroll comps. Level 9 just kind of doesn't exist for a lot of people unless you're able to do what Jirachy is doing right now, and they are maybe going to hit level 9, but also spend a lot of money at 8 to finish that Warlord comp, because you only need the Azir to finish off that Warlord comp if you don't have a spat, which they do. So they have the spat, they've got everything they need right now, and we'll see if that Nidalee stays around, maybe to seek a separate Warlord chosen instead. But we've got a lot of choices here, Khroen.
Okay, and one decision was already made, re-rolled, I believe it was a belt and got a bow out of it. Not 100% sure it was actually a belt that got reforged, but either way, it came out a bow. And what you were saying about pushing level 9, I think there's maybe like two ends of the spectrum there. One of them is that if you're in the Jirachy's position and you're just so far ahead of everyone, you can just go 9 off of tempo. But also, if you're in a position like IceBarriers and you hit your 3-star very, very early, that can then carry your econ back up. And sometimes, I think it's second most likely, players will go to 9 at that point. It is going to be a bit more difficult to do that than to say if you're in the Jirachy's position right now, because like, look at this, the item slams are good as well. You have the Duelist Spatula for the Kale. This is definitely going to be a Kale composition. It's just a matter of time before the Jirachy actually finds the Kale. But 4 Duelist is online currently, level 8 on 4-2 with 40 gold. Like, this is the Jirachy's game to lose right now. The ball is in their court. Everything is going well as we check into someone
The
who's
other
perhaps
side of the
not
equation.
not doing quite as well. Running 6 Divine, which is interesting because Divine did get changed in the last patch. Now you're going to have, when you reach 6 Divine, the buff is going to last for as long. I think it's 6 seconds flat over all of the 2, 4, 6, and 8. But you're going to be able to mitigate more damage and deal more damage in that 6-second time window.
It's funny because a lot of people don't realize you actually clear CC when you're divine as well. So you're not seeing a ton of like really, really hard CC. Like you barely saw any from Pikachu in that round, other than the attack speed slow from Nasus. But because of the CC cleanse and all that stuff, you're going to have the immediate opportunity to use your divine trait, right? So like if you were CC'd and you hit the divine trait, you might lose some time, but since you cleanse, you're going to get, every divine is going to get all 6 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Depending on when they flip. And that's a really big deal when it comes to divine, because sometimes it just takes too long, or you take too much damage too quickly and you don't really have enough left after you transform into your divine. The other thing you need is best in slot Kale items, right? Kale can't really function without some of her divine friends. And with the Sivir, you're getting that kind of faux attack speed item on Kale, because you can't really build, you can build a Rage Blade. Spirit got nerfed, so we're probably going to be seeing a little bit more attack speed than, say, Spirit splashes to increase that attack speed. But here, it's the Sivir that's going to be helping things out, as Jirachy did lose out on their last round.
Yeah.
And
At
this one.
this point, when you're still rocking, a Vlad 1 with Chalice plus Duelist and a Nidalee with 2.5 items on her, 2.5 completed items, I should say, you're gonna start to get outscaled. This is really, really good for the Pikachu right here, though. This Kale with a bow, the most important item by far to have on your Kales, because optimally you want RFC and a Rage Blade, and that's a lot of bows. That's 3 bows to work with here, but this is huge. I was just gonna say I was concerned with the position that the Pikachu is in right now, because it's not like they're doing that great in gold generation. They're decent, I suppose, but they really want to get to 8 and find a probably Samira to hold that Death Blade and GA and Divine Spat. That'd be the best thing. But also the Kale items weren't there, so you have to get lucky as well in the Raptor round. If you get say like a belt or something, you're not going to want to put that on the Kale, so you're gonna probably only be able to utilize a sword, bow, or a rod optimally on this Kale. So a lot of luck needs to happen here for the Pikachu.
If you're having a hard time remembering what's good on Kale, whatever is good on Zed, friends, is pretty good on Kale as well. Excuse me. So now that we have the correct component on the Kale on the bench, we're just going to have to waste those stats for now. We're feeling pretty good, especially since we did hit our 6 Divine, and you did just see them all ascend and look at all of the damage mitigation, right? Unfortunately, Dragon Soul is one of the best things against true damage mitigation because it does percent health. So that was
Yeah.
actually a nice little counter, and that was probably designed focus. We just haven't really seen a lot of divines in the meta, so that kind of just tells me if divine's ever really, really strong, Dragon Soul will pop up most likely as well. And Dragon Soul got a pretty big change going into this next patch as we go ahead and level to 8, spend all of our money, take out a divine. So we're not going to hit our divine 6, but we are going to do our executioners instead.
Yeah, so I
Oh,
suppose,
that's right.
yeah, Azaya functions as well. It does give you Executioner. I was thinking perhaps it still could be Samara, and you can run just like 2 Executioner, but I really I think the Zaya is gonna get outscaled by the Samira potential as long or if you don't find really good Kale items. The Pikachu's is still struggling right now. It's an interesting decision. I can't fault it because I think it is one that's very, I guess, like straightforward. It's the one that's like, okay, if you're running Kale and you have some decent Zaya items, sure, they synergize together because you already have 6 Divine, you're gonna throw Executioner, etc., right? But it might not end up being as well as they hope here. Going to sell a lot of units on the board right now. They do want to keep the Divine Jacks chosen for at least 4 Divine, however. We'll see what changes they end up making in this next round, though, because they won't have a lot of gold to roll with.
No. Really intrigued to see where this is going to go. We went ahead and gave up on the Divine 6. We have the Divine Spat. We changed up a bunch of things. We picked up a Nasus, maybe just in case to fill it out. We're going to go ahead and add all of those items, switch them up. We get a Shojin's and a Ionic Spark, which we did
Rerolls
not get.
again.
Oh, that's much better. That's much better. We got a GA for Kale. So no attack speed for Kale. And because we completed one of the KOs, the bow item is going to be the one that pops off when they do finally combine. But like you said, not a ton going on right now in terms of units. We got a lot of Sand Soldiers because we got a lot of Viziers. This is awkward. This is a little bit awkward, friends.
Awkward to say the least, actually. Going up against Infernix, who has the tier 3 Garen and tier 3 Nidalee for that Warlord composition there, but the CC is coming out real nicely from those Azirs, and Nidalee is going to have to pull off a miracle here. Can she do it? It's honestly looking like maybe, yes, but the Sand Soldiers are going to bait the spears out and the kill. Oh no, the healing. Oh,
Oh
Nidalee.
no.
The gunblade healing was too much. I thought that was like
Classic.
a wrap on the fight when that spear missed, but no.
Remember when we said you would usually sell Nidalee at 3-1?
I
And
mean,
like Oliver value would go down there, but that again just goes to show how strong these one cost units are when you're able to tier 3 them in time, right? If you spend 100 gold and never get there, then you're gonna get 8th, right? But if you get
yeah.
there, their power levels have all seemed to really creep up a little bit.
It of course purely depends on if you're using it just as item carrier or you're going to re-roll it for the the main
Mhm.
threat of your composition. If it's like that, which honestly with
Exactly.
single persona, it's still the main threat of the comp here, but it's not tier 3 yet. Still 2 more Nidalees to go. It looks like single persona being the unlucky one in this warlord meta. It seems still might be okay here. It looks like though.
I think that we are getting to a point too where the reroll comps and the comps that are winning by a lot. So we already have an elimination. Pikachu is going to be very close to being eliminated. Laplace as well. Single Persona moderately close. 2 and the top 3 have really separated themselves. So we're going to get, I think, 6 people, 5 people eliminated pretty quickly here in the next couple rounds, and then we'll figure out our top 4 after that. And it's going to be really interesting because, especially if a bunch of people die at once, all of those units go into the pool all at once, and it's kind of like a reset in game for our top 3 or top 4 players where, okay, if I have the economy, I just got an injection of units I could potentially find, and now it's going to be time to keep pushing my advantage. And that's definitely one of those fine-toothed comb situations in round 6-5 where you have to try to find your advantages as much as possible. Is we do have a tier 3 Annie, which is honestly one of the most terrifying units in the game, in my opinion, because look at that shield, especially with defensive items. sometimes that girl can just stand there and just taunt you until the round is over.
Yeah, and it's just there's no hope for this Saya to do anything against that Annie or any other of these 7 mages that BKrisz has online. The Pikachu is going to fall in 7th, and Laplace falls in 6th as well. So nearing our top 4, we do reach the stage 5 carousel. IceBarriers is falling off a little bit. They were the Dragon Soul Tristana Sharpshooter reroll player, and it seems as though the composition has reached a lull, at least. We're going to see how they have to, or how they can bring it back. And if they can, okay, they have 84 gold right now, so there's something gonna happen
Level
here.
9.
Yeah, level 9. I don't actually know if I like this level 9. Like, what are you gonna put in that's gonna be better than just like actually finding a front line, right? Your Braum is tier 1, your Sejuani is tier 1, your Yone is tier 1. Is that gonna provide enough time for Tristana to do enough damage? I hesitantly will say no. If you wanted to go 9, you had a bit more HP to work with. Maybe you can take 1, maybe 2 more losses. It depends on how bad you were losing the fights, of course. I didn't quite get to see that, but still, I struggle to think that this is the correct move here from IceBarriers, but we'll see how it works out here.
Ooh, man, that Thieves Gloves roll on Vi is actually quite strong, as the Nidalee in the back line is going to go up against the Tristana, and the Tristana is going to fall. Really great to actually have IceBarriers. We had tech issues with him last week, so really good to see his point of view this time around. And the other crazy thing about this lobby is I forget about Pikachu, but I think 6 of the 8 people here have top 3'd at Fight Night before.
Yeah, I think you're
So
right.
while you might not recognize the names like Soulless or K3 Soju. These are all names that have found success right where we are right now, just all in different sets, which is actually like such an intriguing little storyline. And what we're seeing right now from IceBarriers is someone with no money and no opportunity right now to do really anything more with their comp for the next couple rounds, right? We're very lucky that the NPC round is next, so we can at least get 4 gold, right? Maybe
Yeah.
hit 10 gold so we can roll once or twice on the next round. But we're either going to be chilling until we have, single digit HP, or we're going to continue just trying to hit.
Yep. Exactly. They will have probably approximately 20, like 18 to 20-ish gold after the neutral menu and everything like that. But yeah, you're gonna need it because this Tristana just it can't do enough. Like it's cleaning up the majority of boards that you're fighting, but there's always that one unit left at the end that Tristana just cannot deal with at that point. And I think it does honestly come down to the fact that the front line's just a tad bit too weak. It's not giving enough time. So did buy the Braum, will get up to at least 10 gold here, hopefully 12. And then with a bunch of econ, then get to a bit more than that. You're on a 5 loss streak, so we're gaining a lot of gold just for just for losing a bunch right now. So you got that going for you if you're IceBarriers. It looks likely to get into the top 4, however, from here, even with losing all these rounds.
If IceBarrier, so I think one of the big reasons why IceBarriers has actually been able to stay at 33 HP is because we have more units. So they have a little bit more opportunity to take down a unit before they fall themselves. And so we're only losing by 1 or 2 units because we just have a numbers advantage right now. They're tissue paper, these units. They were up until we hit that Braum, but even a Braum 2 at this point isn't really going to be doing a ton. We have blue buff now, which is very, very interesting. Who are we going to give it to? I like blue buff on Yuumi. Cringe Claw on
Okay.
the Aatrox. We got the Azir, so we've gotten a lot stronger. If we
Yeah.
didn't find those units, and if we didn't hit, then all of that investment was literally for nothing. So that's a risk that IceBarriers takes. And if you decide to make that same decision at home, you're going to have to weigh those options too. Is if I don't hit, I'm gonna lose the round. If I hit, I might win, right? So you gotta be able to know exactly when to pull the trigger, and it works here for IceBarriers this time around. A single persona drops in 5th place. We're at 6-2, 4 people remaining, and 3 of them are all pretty close to each other. I don't think this is
Yeah.
reaching round 7.
Perhaps not. I'm curious. Yeah, actually, I was just gonna say I wanted to go back and look at the Jirachy here and how they're pivoting at this point, because they're honestly a bit weaker than I would expect. That GA that's on the Morgana, I would like that to be on the Kale instead. We saw the lack of defense from the Kale in the last fight, man, that she got Aatrox pulled in and died pretty quickly after that. Imagine one of those Nidalee spears finding its way to the Kale. That's just going to be lights out for your carry and probably lights out for your game #1 run here. Even from the Aurelion Soul in the back from BKrisz. There's just going to be no defense here. So we'll see how the fight plays out. The Annie, of course, is super, super tanky. So hard to take down. And there's like healing there for the Kale, but it's just not going to be enough. Jirachy will fall here in 4th place. And after that start, after that start, you got to be a bit, at least maybe it's too harsh to say, but I'd be a bit disappointed in that result from having that good of a start.
All right, I'm going to match my voice to this camera. Hold on 1 second. All right, we've got BKrisz sitting on, he's scouting right now. He's got his 7 mages, and these 7 mages are ready to tango. Is that good? Good?
Perfect. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm curious you casting the fight with that voice too.
Okay. All right, so BKrisz is going to wait for his ASOL in the back line. Oh, he sneezes all over everyone. Achoo, everyone is down for the count. And remember, BKrisz by TFT.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
Stellar.
I usually hate myself on camera most of these days, so I'm glad I got to give a little bit back to the community with some good satire.
Round of applause.
Thank you. Much appreciate. Also, I don't like finishing words, apparently. Okay, so Preach. Giant Slayer, Hextech Gunblade on the ASOL. What are you thinking about these this ASOL pick right now? We literally saw 1 ASOL last week, which was probably the most surprising thing in the entire week. We have 6 Elderwood with 7 mages. That's actually nutty. But what do you think about those item choices on the ASOL?
I like it a lot. Gunblade being a very, very key one. Giant Slayer, I think, is perfect as well with the Elderwood spat. The only other thing that you would really maybe want, besides for Giant Slayer, is going to be Jeweled Gauntlet. But that Giant Slayer is going to find value against a lot of these units because they are tier 3. So their HP is above threshold to deal extra damage there. Same with, Warlord buff, and ASOL is just going to do way too much work here, and that's going to be it for game #1. BKrisz takes it with the 7 mage, 6 Elderwood composition.
Quick. That was a quick game, everyone. So I think the pacing of these games is actually going to go by about that quick. We usually each lobby tends to take longer throughout the day as players learn about each other, adjust their strategies, for example. But I expect these games to be pretty quick as we're spending money pretty quickly. Team comps are getting stronger faster, which means damage is being done more often, more frequently by more people. And so it speeds up the game. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the point of it is to hit round 6-3 with 5 people around 20 HP, which you'll see in most of your ladder games. And so, especially in Diamond and below. So it's really cool how that kind of system is in place, but these players are going to learn each other. They're going to learn how each other plays, and they're going to start adjusting their play. It's how they interact with the people who don't adjust and start doing their mono comps that I love seeing that interaction.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And that's the kind of appealing to take a look at and to notice exactly how the people identify, okay, what happened in lobby 1, lobby 2, how do I adjust my play moving forward? The players that are going to be able to not only adjust, but adjust well are going to be the ones that usually come out on top. Or if you just have such a grasp of the meta, you have to change the composition that you're already running, or the playstyle you're running is just going to be that much better. But we take a look at the scores, and of course, BKrisz in first after game #1, and Phoenix in second. And Phoenix are returning winner from last week. Still a solid start to the day. IceBarriers got Tristana netting a 3rd, and the Jirachy with 4th there. Single Persona 5th, Laplace 6th, Pikachu 7th, and a Raye rounding it out in 8th. But still 3 more games to go, so these scores could get mixed up a lot.
A Raye, the pH is 1, so it's an acid. It's an acid up until 7, which is neutral, and everything above that is basic. Are you smarter than a 5th grader? Proud of myself. Anyway, but as we go into this next lobby, what's going to be really interesting is going to be a couple things for me. Number one is BKrisz going to be able to do what they were able to do this game. He got a little lucky on some of those items, right? With those Elderwood spats.
Yeah.
High rolled moderately, but in order to win a lobby, you do kind of have to high roll. And two, what are some of these other players going to do? Like I said, 6 out of 8 of these players have gotten top 3 in fight night. Not been here before, but have been here over a 2-3 week period. I don't believe any of them have made it past 3 weeks. So this could be a nice little I think Infernix is on their second week or third week right now. So this would be a really great time to start proving yourself. Just like when anyone hits over that 4th or 5th week, that's when New Mono and Hobos really started getting known amongst some players in the community where, hey, these players are the real deal. This isn't a one-off experience, for example. We
Definitely.
can recreate the success. And so that's always something that I'm looking at is if number 1 can recreate that success, and if number 8 will be able to say, all right, mulligan, and be able to move forward knowing that they're behind. So
Yeah.
that's going to be what I'm looking for Raye. And we have seen a couple players. I think that's Primal is one that pops out to me who 8th on their first lobby, but ended up winning the whole day.
Yeah.
And so, anything is possible depending on how the rest of the lobby goes. And especially at the beginning of a meta when things are still settling down.
Definitely. Funny you bring up Primal's example. I think Primal had some days, we start off with an 8th, Primal had some days where you end on like a 7th or an 8th after being in the lead, still winning that game narrowly. But yeah, it just goes to show the point that you're just bringing up. All 6 of these players have top 3, so the potential is there to do well. It's just going to come down to, I suppose, consistency and approach, I suppose. And that's a very broad term, but I say approach relating back to the concept we were just talking about with recognizing who in the lobby is running what and how to play around that. If you notice, there's a lot of people running reroll compositions, but hey, no one ran a reroll Yasuo. Maybe if one pops up, you can not only be in a good spot to be uncontested, but even be better off just because everyone else is rerolling. You're going to have a higher chance to hit the Yasuos actually when you are indeed slow rolling it down or hyper rolling. There's actually a game in the NA Qualifier 3 where I believe it was Spencer and Mismatch Socks both hyper rolled post Krugs against each other with that Yasuo. And that's like, that was kind of nuts because Socks is the player that has cemented slow rolling as like the correct thing to do. Is like, no, don't low roll. It's actually a higher chance of you succeeding if you hyper roll and or if you slow roll, excuse me. But yeah, it just goes to show there's a lot of adjustments that you can make on the fly in games like this. And with everybody having that top 3 experience, they're going to be looking out to make those adjustments.
You can't glue your feet to the ground or else you get stuck, right?
Exactly.
It's and that can definitely happen in TFT. And one thing before we move from BKrisz, have you ever watched the IT crowd?
I have not.
Okay, for you guys at chat, does BKrisz kind of look like Matt Berry, the comedian? Okay, so that is definitely something that it is almost doppelganger-ish, and which he's on What We Do in the Shadows as well, the vampire show. Anyway, that I was like, who does this guy look like? And I finally figured it out. But anyway, a side quest, if you will, in Boopasaurus's brain, as we are in the early game and early stages here. And I like to remind everyone when they're listening to us, especially at the early stages of TFT, is nothing like that happens in the first 5 rounds. Not nothing. A lot of things won't stick to 10 rounds later. They're just developing, right? So these first rounds are exploration. It's information gathering, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once a player decides they have enough information to make a decision, that's when the game starts, right? And that tends to not happen in the first, 3 NPC rounds up until the first Krugs round. And after Krugs, it's kind of like we're playing TFT. Before that, it's all right. What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Did you study? No, I didn't. I'm cheating off of you. That's how I survived high school. No, but that's not true. I failed chemistry. I didn't cheat. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course. There is, you mentioned information gathering, and I think it is important to address one thing that we've seen, and that was the first matchup between BKrisz and I forget who it was, but they had a Yasuo with an RFC. And there's already 2 RFCs that have been slammed, and that's very, very committal For I guess they can go a couple of ways with that, right? You can go as Zed, Shyvana, Olaf, or a Kale. Those are the units that come to mind if you slam an RFC. So while we're still kind of feeling things out, still making a lot of adjustments to the board, that does kind of lock you into one of those, I would say, 4 compositions, at least eventually. Which one we end up with, it depends. It really, really depends. But at least some decision has been made for those couple of players, BKrisz being one of them.
And the one decision that is going to be made potentially in our first initial NPC rounds pre-Krugs is exactly what items we're going to get. So you are going to have a little bit more knowledge than previous on where your comp is going in this particular meta earlier on, right? And I think that's based off of what items you potentially grab. You can go with the super versatile item, which is like Hodge, that you can kind of, hand around because it's going to work on most carries. It might not be best in slot for some, but it's a good consolation item, right? But if you do have the RFC and you do have the Rage Blade, then you're going to go Kale, right? And you can start working your way towards that a little bit easier. And with some of our kind of traits being so massive, right? You've got Elderwood and Brawlers having 8 and 9 respectively, right? That there's going to be a lot of opportunities in different ways to get into these comps that we normally might not have been able to do before. So getting into the Kale comp is going to be it is item dependent, but how you get into that is going to be, I think, a little easier in today's meta than it used to be because of some of these item changes and what people are doing with these items.
Definitely. Quick note, I suppose, just because I see an Akali there. Akali is one of the units that can function with the RFC quite well, and it's not going to be impossible to actually see someone like reroll for an Akali 3 with perhaps Spirit. Spirits did get nerfed a little bit, I believe. 5% at that 4 Spirit threshold there. 2 Spirit is still the same, but Akali will be the thing that carries the unit that carries the RFC as of now, at least. Going up against Infernix. And Infernix, this is looking like a reroll Nasus. Already the Chosen, none on the bench, however, but with a Jewel Gauntlet Slam plus a Vest, still level 4, 30 gold on the bench there. It's looking fairly committal to me for now. It doesn't have to be. You can pivot out, as some players actually would, with only having 3 Nasus as the form of a Chosen, but we'll see what decision Infernix decides to make a bit later.
Oh no, did BKrisz take his camera off? Because we were...
There's no more camera.
Oh no!
Blame
It
Boop.
looked so good. It was
Yeah,
my fault.
I was a big fan.
Yeah. Anyway, so the other thing that BKrisz has is Z items too. So we could potentially go to the Slayers. We could potentially go to Kale. We can stay on the Akali, but with that second bow, it's looking like a Kale comp to me. Single Persona now is in last place. It's actually a place that Single Persona is used to being in. And the reason why tell me.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I need you to geek out because I see it, but I want you to explain it.
All right, so Infernix and Single Persona are both on 4 loss streaks right now. So what do they want to do? They want to lose. They want to play the weakest board possible with still holding all the units they want. So Single Persona takes out the Chosen Diana to be weaker than Infernix, even though there's only 3 Nasuses on the board, and maintain the loss streak. So they're going to be gaining a lot more gold as opposed to Infernix over there. And sure, you're not contesting each other's units, but still, that econ advantage is huge. Could even roll as quickly as on Krugs and stay above 50 and still be getting Dianas, because Single Persona is going to commit to this Diana reroll, it looks like. And I listed reroll compositions earlier, but I forgot to mention Diana. There's so many of them. There's Yasuo, there's Diana as well with the 1 cost. Like, there's so many reroll compositions that can function. It's wonderful. Very, very skilled that Single Persona was able to recognize that and frankly get like a massive advantage for preserving that loss streak.
And Force Spirit, while nerfed, is still good, especially early on, because the cool thing about Spirit is none of the spirits actually share another trait outside of Spirit. So you can go one of 4 directions, right? You could go the Executioner spot. You can lean into Sharpshooter, into Executioner, into Kale, right? There are, I think, very obvious steps to go from Spirit. And if you have the Spirit units, which, 3 of them are 3 cost and below, right? Or all of them are 3 cost and below. So you're just going to get a lot of attack speed. And so now what you're going to be able to do is pick up an Executioner. You could get a Diana 3 at 40 gold remaining. That feels good.
Oh
That
man.
is going to fall off, folks. That isn't going to do as well as some other tier 3 1 cost units, but should be fine now. But yeah, I mean, you don't need attack speed because you've got the spirit buff. You can put in any other auto attack based champion because of the spirit buff. Honestly, you don't even need the other units outside of the 4 spirit here. This Diana 3 probably takes it anyway, unless it goes up against a Nunu
Yeah.
with more HP. Oh, we got to
Oh man.
we got to experiment. Am I right? Am I right? We shall see. It's gonna be.
This
Yeah, I'm right. I'm right. I'm right. Oh, it might be close.
Diana
This
getting
might be
stunned.
close.
We'll be able to cast her ulti to
Okay.
get some shields, so she will
Oh,
win
and
the
look at
round.
that Titan's Resolve change. When she's bigger, the orbs go out further now. For Titan's Resolve, that was a little bit of a quality of
Oh
life
yeah.
change in the patch notes.
Exactly. Also something interesting. Single Persona has found a spatula, so Assassin Spat's going to be on the table now, and I believe that should go in over on the Kindred, perhaps over the Teemo right now. I think it would be a little bit better. Of course, you don't need it in currently, but there is potential to get to 4 assassin very quickly with it. Right now, we're just rocking a couple of brawlers in the front line just to buy some time for Diana to do work. But you mentioned that Diana is going to fall off, and I agree. She will fall off. It'll be a lot harder for her to do work in the end game as opposed to say some of the other 1 cost carries. But by no means is she going to fall off like super hard or even that quickly. She's going to even win this round, which you kind of maybe I spoke too soon there. Teemo, it's time. Nah, it's gonna die to the Rakan, unfortunately, but it's still close. And Laplace had a very strong board there, seeing as I believe they're still on 100 HP, the only player to be on 100 HP.
A Raye PH though in second place. Love seeing that. I'm still pretty impressed by single Persona's read on taking the Diana out.
Oh yeah.
That was really cool.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah.
That's a
Go.
TFT player for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not something that a lot of players will identify. In fact, only like really the upper echelon of players, I think, like notice thing like that, recognize, okay, I can hit 1 of 3 matchups here. I want to lose. Who's weaker than me? This person's weaker than me. I'm playing my weakest board, and that makes such a huge difference, actually. Yeah, I just can't like give enough credit to that because it is very impressive to do something like that, and that's what players. If you're a full loss streaky going into Krugs, you should be doing the same thing, honestly, and you'll be better off for it. But losing these next couple of rounds, though, is single persona because this Diana is getting CC'd a lot, doesn't have any real damage items as of yet. Only the Titan's Resolve to her name, and a glove which can get popped off actually if we do decide to commit to an assassin's spat. There is another spatula here on the carousel though, so it might just end up being a force of nature, and you can save the glove to build it into an IE.
IE, one of my favorite items. It is better than it. I always felt like IE needed something else to go along with it in order to really find its complete value. But I guess you could say that about all carries and their items. What I like about IE is that it's a standard damage situation. You put this on, you get it. There's no surprising, and then you can build off of that item. That's really cool. But we're gonna get a force of nature put in our TK Sir Thomas, along with DD and friends,
Yeah.
and that Tom Kench is beefy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that the Tom Kench that you got from the carousel was the one with the spat, and then you rolled 2 other Tom Kenches. It's like, oh, I'm already running brawlers. Might as well just throw this TK in. He's gonna be the tankiest lad that I have to work with, and gonna roll with it here. Single persona gonna probably look for some wins, however. And ooh, that's going to be an Olaf over there with a Tryndamere for the Pikachu. So committal to Slayers as of now. Not the items that not completed items rather. The Runance is really good, the Hodge is really good. Still needs a bit more though to deal with things like that Diana from single persona.
Yeah, and something that I wanted to mention too was a little bit briefly mentioned in chat is Teemo, and the amount of auto attack based champions in the game right now is huge. So that blind, especially in the mid game, is obscenely strong and and powerful. Especially if you're able to spread it around. Say you have a Ludens in the mid game, maybe even a Morellos. You can really rip through a lot of HP. You get the attack speed from the Sivir if you're running sharpshooters, plus the spirit buffs. So that's gonna be pretty solid. We're looking at Laplace right now, who had a very similar kind of day last week where we just got better as the day went
Yeah.
on. But it's just so interesting seeing so many people 50 gold at all times.
Yeah.
Like usually, as a TFT player, you're kind of like, okay, I'm gonna get to 50 gold and start playing. It's kind of
Mhm.
like what it felt like at times, but now it's been you interact with your, buy and refresh buttons way more frequently,
Oh yeah.
and Laplace is gonna not actually be victimized by that as just a tier 1 Sivir with good items, good kale items, by the way,
Oh yeah.
is gonna take him down anyway. And that goes to show how strong those items are, that it didn't require a tier 2 unit. The items on the Sivir were enough just to put the bow on top of that fight. It might have not been the reason for the win, but was definitely why it was locked up.
Yeah. That is interesting. A Yone on stage 3. Not something that we see every day at all, but we're going to have okay. Right. This is the other spirit player. I was like, oh, there's no fourth spirit. Yeah, this is the assassin chosen Diana, of course. And 3 adept already on the board as well. This is pretty solid. I think this Diana is going to get sold in favor of a Talon because Diana 2 is going to, of course, fall off. We are able to sell up to 50 gold as well and roll a set just because we can. So many legendary
Oh,
units coming out on these level 7 rolls here. 1%, but just hit.
oh man, to be a part of the 1%, huh, Khroen? To the
I know,
moon!
right?
As Laplace now is running an 80 carry build on Diana. And I like to bring these things up sometimes in case we do have any newer viewers here, where it might be really weird to see AD items on a traditionally AP assassin carry on Summoner's Rift. One of two reasons. One, you got to kind of just take that out of your head in TFT. There are a lot of items that go on people that you wouldn't expect, like defensive items on Annie, but also in this situation where we are going to be holding items as well as utilizing those stats right away, as we do have a reroll Nasus going up against these 4 very strong units, and it is actually pretty close because of that summoner buff, and because there was
Ooh.
Grievous on him too. It was
Yeah,
just too much, and I think those crits were the things that are taking that HP just a little bit ahead. But that's kind of a heartbreaking loss, not gonna lie.
it is. I thought the Morellos would have been the difference there. I was like, oh, Caleb Plus, great slam there. I think that's what's going to be needed to deal with the Nasus, but just narrowly wasn't enough. Laplace at this point now is just going to be saving up for level 8, then going to sell the Diana, I believe, roll it down from there. We see another Warlord reroller with a tier 3 Garen and tier 3 Nidalee. That's going to certainly do well. It doesn't look like, yeah, single persona really has yet still any items on this Diana to work with. No swords have been grabbed. There's a Morellos on the Teemo, but we're gonna need a bit more than that. I believe Laplace won this quote unquote mirror matchup before, is gonna look to win it again and might do so. The Morellos Yone comes through. Diana's, yeah, they both start spinning at the same time with the orbs, but Laplace is gonna be victorious.
I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I kind of miss the Diana like 1v4s that we used to get all the time with Moonlight, like those epic moments where you saw with both of them. Oh, you think the tier 3 Diana is going to be better because tier 3, but it's actually going to be the crits from that IE that I think get the damage above where it needs to be. That Bloodthirster not getting as much value as, say, it would on a Talon because of the auto attack enhancement that Talon gets through that ultimate, but Diana's going to be using a good amount of that as well. Obviously, assassins are doing not that great against siphoners. That makes sense, especially with Nasus being tier 3 there. Attack speed is something that assassins need, and attack speed is something that those assassins did not have. And the assassins are attacking quite slowly again this time around, and I'm actually really worried if the CC goes down on them, which it does not, but I say if you're not within a tile or two of that Kale by the time the auto attack transforms, you're probably going to lose that round.
Yeah. That Kale is only tier 1. There was no gold for IceBarriers either, so very, very much an uphill battle for them and for the Pikachu right now because there's 0 gold here, only an Olaf 1 at 17 HP. How are we going to get to level 8? Maybe not even ever, but even without that in mind, how are we going to get our Olaf 2?
You know, it's like everyone's in fortune jail without playing fortune.
Yeah.
When you re-roll and don't hit, right? That's what it is. You spend literally, it's technically the unit, a tier 3 1-cost unit technically costs 9 gold, right? But the amount that you re-roll, you're spending upwards of 50, 75, 100 gold to hit your, especially your tier 3, tier 2 units, right? And you got to take that into consideration. So if you go for it, if you're like, I'm donkey rolling to 0, right? And you don't hit, ladies, gentlemen, pals at home, this is what happens. Is what you're seeing is you just got to hit. We saw someone do that, and it actually worked out with IceBarriers a little earlier today, where we hit the units under 10 gold almost every single time.
That was a fortune cash out.
And that was a fortune cash out, something that we are allergic to seeing here
Apparently.
at Fight Night. But we
to be
do
fair,
have two Nikos.
Yeah, so to be fair, we swapped over to it after the fight was already won. I don't want to take full credit for that one, but it is a fortune cash out that gave 2 Nikos, gave Smudge units, and now we are back online. If we are the Pikachu there, we get Olaf 2, we get Sejuani 2, we get a Yone on the board as well, which doesn't really give anything by himself, but we also have Ornn in there as well to start generating some artifacts.
Those artifacts too can be make or break for some of these comps in the late game. You can get pretty lucky with it. I personally like the Blitzcrank pool and seeing how players utilize that to get Kales and stuff out of the corner. It forces the whole lobby to change how they position, which is when you're kind of like an inner troll like me, and anytime you get to go, right? I like that, and that's what that does for me.
Oh no.
We're gonna go ahead and get our Slayer bonus. Darius, not amazing when it comes to what he's able to accomplish. There are gonna be some lucky rounds where he just happens to ult on a bunch of low people and is able to, pop all those pimples on the board. But usually that's not going to be the case. It's going to be this Olaf and this Tryndamere. This Tryndamere is going to be the one that I'm definitely keeping my eye on, where I think Olaf is going to be doing a lot of the upfront damage and Tryndamere is going to be doing a lot of the executions.
I'm kind of confused right now why we sold a Ornn there just for an Aatrox 1. Not like it's an Aatrox 2 or anything, and could have farmed up some artifacts, only had to win, or just play it through this round, play it through Raptors, then one more after that. I don't think it would change the course of the fight either way, but nonetheless, the Pikachu will win on the back of that Olaf. And yeah, no artifacts. Hopefully gets a good item from the Raptor round. I think a bow would be optimal here. Maybe another Rune Ends could function as well, I think, honestly. But something. You need a good component here. And I think we're gonna get a few components from the looks of things here.
Yeah, with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 8 comes after 6. When you're counting
There's
by
11 components here.
And we have a Chosen Yuumi, which is honestly one of my favorite. If I don't have a Chosen, I'm going to pick this Chosen up Chosens. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the spirits are like that. Kendrick can be like that for sure. As we get a spatula, and we actually do get that
2
RFC.
bows.
We got 2 bows and a Lee Sin, so we're gonna get a duelist set up too. So gonna go with the
Huh.
RFC on the Olaf instead of the duelist spat. Duelist spat, I'm pretty sure, is gonna go on Yone when we get this Lee Sin in, or not.
I would say, honestly, I think put it on the Zillion. Yeah, we're gonna see that
For the
here.
ult.
Yeah, Zillion's gonna be able to get actually like get autos off. Yone, he's gonna get ulti off, whatever, shred some resistances, and that's kind of job done right there for Yone. But for Zillion, gets him faster to that first auto attack, gets him faster to that or the second ultimate rather, first ultimate, and that'll be a big deal.
Ooh,
Oh, I don't think he actually got one off there, however. And the Olaf is nowhere to
no.
be seen, has fallen.
Yeah, the Tryndamere is gonna be the one that wins out, and with those auto attack buffs, maybe enough, but that's the Talon that was a Diana earlier, right? Look how much stronger a Talon can utilize those 2 items specifically. So, i.e. Bloodthirster, always good on a Talon, will always be good on an Assassin, but you have to move those 2 items if you build them onto Talon later. When pros talk about min-maxing, that's maximizing that damage potential. You might be losing some utility because you don't currently have a QSS and stuff on it to help. But I'm sure that's all coming here very, very soon, as we're keeping the Zillion as the duelist for now. And we're gonna sell it instead, make the Samira a duelist. Does her attack speed increase?
I believe, yeah, it would. It would just get her quicker to that ultimate state.
I,
I think. I actually
I'm
know. I'm
not
not gonna
sure.
lie.
Okay, but we do get to that ultimate, and I'm sure someone will tell us in a second. The pools from Morgana are insane. We also have the Siphoner 3 in the back line. We saw the Nasus win this out earlier, and we actually might be seeing a second. No! Oh, yes! Because the Olaf can still get the damage, but isn't going to get that attack speed slow. So Nasus 3 friends. That's a good one to try on the ladder. It's almost a guarantee. It is a guaranteed top 4.
The items weren't even great either. It's basically just the jeweled gauntlet, but you're still gonna be winning those fights, and that is insane. We do end up with the Pikachu going out in 8th and moving over to the Jirachy. Let's see what they're working with here. It's gonna be 4 Siphoner, 5 Divine, no golds right now, but that Swain is looking scary.
Yeah, that's Swain getting swiped right a lot on those dating apps. Let me tell you, with those items. It's a great analogy. And so, especially
It
with
is.
the Warmogs and the Titans Resolve, that Swain is going to require a grievous wounds and potentially some percent health to take down. That Vanguard spat is low key. Maybe not even low key, but is pretty strong on a couple 5-cost units. So Samira, I think, is the one that a lot of people think of, but can really splash onto any of the 5-cost units to make them just that. Any one of them to make them tankier, right? And
Yep.
you put Swain with Warmogs, which is already an amazing item. You make him bigger with that Titan's Resolve. He might not be doing a lot of damage at once, but will be doing more damage over time.
Yep. Exactly. Swain gonna probably be the best one to get that Vanguard spec out of those legendaries. I would say, especially when you're itemizing and building a composition around this, you're gonna have 4 Siphoners and just all your units in the front line here. It's just a bunch of beef over there, and Swain's gonna be doing a lot of damage. Moving on over to Raye. Raye has 3 Nikos right now, but what are we even Nikoing? Already have a tier 3 Garen and Nidalee. What's going to move on to the board here? It's going to be a couple of Yones on the bench, 6 Warlord, 4 Sharpshooters, and Mana Zane going on the Teemo, it looks like. Yep.
Khroen, it's a Karen comp. It's
is.
Carrie Garen, guys. It is a Karen comp. Let's see if Karen is gonna be able to speak to the Jirachy's manager. So far, so good. So far, Karen getting their way.
Nidalee.
Italy
Yeah.
is gonna be really the one. Karen needed a little bit of backup, called in the backup, came in, got the discount, got a free meal voucher, and was able to come out with the victory.
Man, it's a scary scenario when Karen calls out the backup. You know we're in for something at that point. And with that Nidalee, yeah, we were in for some big damage there. I
Yeah.
believe Garen had like 6K and Nilly had like 13K there, so doubling the Karen's efforts there even.
Already moderately, I mean, that's really high for Garen damage,
Yeah, it is, very.
amount too. So, together with the Jeweled Gauntlet, do you know if the crit reflect can crit because of the Jeweled Gauntlet? I don't think it can.
I don't think so, but not confirmed, but I definitely, I don't think it would be able to.
All right, here we go. Raye once again, this time against Infernix and that Nasus 3 that has been absolutely indestructible, as shown by the fire around his portrait. And unfortunately for Raye, these items with the Jeweled Gauntlet are going to be enough. You just need to keep him alive. You don't need to make him do a ton of damage. Just got to keep him alive. Shroud of Stillness will get him to that first ultimate, get him to that lifesteal. The Jeweled Gauntlet will get him even more of that, a win more situation.
Yeah.
And that
Oh.
Shroud of Stillness is so strong. And so is this item set for Tryndamere, potentially, or even
Yeah,
Vi.
I think these are great items to put on the Tryndamere right now, especially with the BT, D-Claw. RFC even can function as well, and we see a bunch of attack speed items over everyone's board, it looks like there. Besides Laplace having the, I believe it was Zeke's Gargoyle Stoneplate and the Chalice there. But we actually are in our top 4 already, Boop. Who is out? Okay, Single Persona out in 7th, BKrisz out in 6th, IceBarriers in 5th. Jirachy, a top 4 once again. See if they can get anything besides just a 4th. But these items are actually going to be going on the Teemo and the Sivir. No love being shown to the Tryndamere right now.
Tryndamere, in my opinion, is one of the best ways to get to a Kayle in the back line, because he will go through the most amount of people in order to get to his destination after his ult, and that tends to be where the Kayle is. The Kayle tends to be the most protected unit on someone's bench. Intrigued on, yeah, not going to get a ton of value from that Teemo and those items, and look at this Kayle already bursting through. It's the Kayle along with the talent. The talent
Yeah.
is the real is honestly the real carry here. All the Kayle has to do is attack once or twice, and because of the talent damage, is already going to be taken down. This is going to be really interesting. That Swain battle versus a Cringe Claw, or that Dragon's. Sorry, it's my friend. It's habit. That Dragon's Claw. Apologies, everyone.
Damn, you really hate Dragon Claw, Boop. You're just not a fan.
So does Jirachy. Without that
True.
Dragon's Claw, Jirachy probably wins that round. But we're still in our top 4, and like we said, this stuff is going really fast because of these reroll comps. More damage being done by more people across the board, so you get 4 people eliminated really quickly, and then the rest of the top 4 taking those items, taking those units back, doing a kind of a soft reset, and going after the win right after that. Raye doing exactly that. Doesn't want to commit these 3 Nikos just yet, and I totally understand the option paralysis here, as a Azir 2 isn't going to really help all that much.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You save him for Samira. As soon as you get a Samira with that, the Last Whisper BT, you slap a couple Nikos there. It's Samira 2. She's going to be carrying at that point, and you kind of need it when you're going up against, Swains like this and Nasuses like we see as well. Jirachy netting exactly a 4th yet again, 2 games in a row, but we still got a few more rounds left for these last few competitors here. Raye going from a fast 8th last game to potentially a 1st here. There's a long way to go before that gets there, but if a Samira is found, you have a lot better chance to navigate that one.
oh man, I love TFT, Khroen. Anytime we
Game.
get to we get to this point, and we get to those last 3 people, and everyone is within, pretty much 20 HP, right? It can really go any direction, because it becomes potentially a rock, paper, scissors, and depending who gets eliminated next is going to be who decides who might win. You otherwise might not have been able to get first if this other person wasn't stronger than this other person.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And Nasus needs some changes. Is what I'm
You think
seeing.
so?
Um, what I'm seeing right now as he did not take damage throughout that entire round. And
Nope.
the craziest thing about this
Oh.
Nasus is that it's been here since like 3-2. So it's been a carry for 3 full rounds now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what you can do here if you're A-Ray is you Nico Samira once. You put the Nico'd Samira on board, sell the Sivir, put all the items on, and then Nico it so you can get the tier off of the Samira. You just pick up the Samira to have the opportunity for it. But let's see if they end up doing that here. Sell, Nico, put all the yeah, here we go. All right, so correct decision making happening right now. Boom, Samira 2, and now it's exactly what Area needs to have a much better shot at winning this lobby. Actually, even out dropping 6 Warlord to go 6 Sharpshooters, selling the Vi, getting the redemption off, and can actually Nico this Yone for Yone 2 as well, or the Azir. Could have maybe greeted it out, but that's risky as well. So I think I like this decision here. See
Mhm.
if it works out.
Well, I think you can make the argument, Noodly 3 so good. The way that A-Ray has actually been playing this late game has been mega impressive to me. Because of how many options there were. I am oh,
Oh, okay.
okay, okay.
Doesn't
I was
die.
doesn't die, hits 9 HP. It looks like we
Ooh.
are gonna hit round 7, and so we still have these 3 players, and Phoenix is gonna be the one that we're really kind of understanding that is gonna maintain that top 3 position. Hasn't dropped out of the top 3 in the last 5 out of 6 lobbies, I believe. 4 out of 5 lobbies. Exactly going to be the same, moving that to 5 out of 6. A-Ray was 8th place last time. So
Okay.
this is a very, very good opportunity for A-Ray to not just put themselves in the running, but completely destroy the standings
Oh, yeah.
in terms of like where everyone is getting placed. And that's always really fun because that means that after the half, it's still going to be anyone's game.
Yeah, can A-Ray now deal with this Nasus with the changes to this composition? It's going to be a lot more likely. Still going to not have any healing reduction, though, but Samira has made her way spinning around, but Nasus is still not taking any damage, Boop.
I just want this
Oh,
Nasus to fall just so
oh,
Jesus,
he might,
Jesus,
he might,
Oh,
he,
oh, no, oh, no.
okay.
Oh! Okay, so that is a tier 1 unit, though. You know what
Yep.
I mean? And the emotions are starting to run high now that I've seen that a couple times, right? And that's gotta be a little frustrating, but in the end, right, what I would say is if I was, like, part of the dev team is, like, where's your anti-healing? Right? Like
Yeah, I mean,
where's your percent health? You got to change. This is what the reforger is for. This is what, all of these other things are for. Maybe build a giant slayer and you're going to be better off. But
yep.
this Nidalee has a giant slayer, right? I'm not sure if these items on the Teemo are worth it. Not sure, meaning they aren't worth it. But
Yeah,
the
we got to replace that team.
Exactly. We got to get that big item off. We might do it now, but we need the 6 sharpshooter. So
Yep.
we're stuck with Teemo, not even in the back line with RFC.
Yeah, and I don't think we want to replace it until we find another one, because of course, oh, okay, we found another one, but I don't think that's going to be the thing that A-Ray decides to do here, though. Actually, is trying to go back up to 6 Warlord, but only has 5. Actually, just putting it in for Slayer, in fact. 3 Slayers for the Samira. This might be correct, I think, actually. The biggest net damage output decisions have been made for A-Ray as they go against Infernix here.
Number 1 EU in Phoenix
Yep.
might fall in this round. It's that Nasus is the
Okay.
MVP of this team so
Ooh,
far, and it
here we go.
does fall, but it took 2 5 cost units at tier 2 and a tier 3 Nidalee. Probably was going to be fine to do with 1 5 cost unit and the other, but yeah, that Nasus was very, very strong. And it
Yeah.
wasn't really the other items, it was just Nasus and Declaw. Right? That was the big part there.
And it looks like the decision is going to be made right now. A-Ray is going to sell the Teemo. Pog and is going to put okay. I like this a lot. I think honestly both these items could have gone on the Azir, but the RFC being on the Tryndamere is perfectly fine. Manazin and Azir is gonna be nuts though. The CC potential, if it finds Talon, is gonna be huge.
This Duelist Kale in the backline, though, is going to be destroying HP bars because I'm not playing the Kale. This Duelist Kale, though, is already getting all of that damage, has already ramped up, and now needs to finish the job, which is going to be close with the GA getting procced. Is it going to be able to beat that spear? Yes, it will, as Laplace is going to finish in first place at 7-2. We actually got a lot of Bill Gates-esque comps that time around, which is the legendary comps. We got that, Lee Sin 2 there. We got a lot of tier 2 units from Raye because of that fortune payout from what feels like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's like forever ago.
Yeah, but these standings are actually going to be pretty nuts, and because Laplace didn't finish very high last round either.
Yeah, we're gonna have those in just a moment. But that game was very, very well played. I think Talon, though, showing that is still very strong. The Kale versus Nidalee at the end there was so close. Like that's like a point, like less than a 0.5 second difference in the way that fight goes. And I think that's some really good identification there of both players trying to make their compositions as strong as possible, scaling into the late game. It doesn't look like this is sorted, but it looks like Infernix does have the highest points right now with 15. In second, it's going to be BKrisz tied with Applause for 13 points apiece. And then the Jirachy going fourth a couple of games in a row means you're going to be fourth place in the standings as well as we reach our half point here, Boop. Here we go. Sorted.
Look at that, man. Technology. Infernix is sitting in first place without winning a lobby. Very different week from last week, but we'll take a first anytime. BKrisz and Laplace trading places throughout those last 2 lobbies. Again, showing, I think what that shows more than anything is that we're still new here. Right? Yes, we're re-rolling and hitting, and some players are very anti that style, and it like hurts a lot of players to play in that style. Other players are going to be adjusting a little bit more quickly, and I think we're going to be seeing continued inconsistency. I think the consistency will be in the inconsistency as we continue to move on these lobbies because of where the meta is right now.
Definitely, perhaps so. I'm excited to see what adjustments these players make, but before that, we'll give them a bit of time, and you all at home, just a few minutes to stretch your legs, go get a drink, all that good stuff. But we'll be back here in just a few on Fight Night Rising. Don't go anywhere. Oh, and we are back on Fight Night Rising. Boop, we've had a couple of games so far, and they've been pretty solid. I think we've seen a lot of neat things. So what has been your favorite so far? What are you looking forward to for the next couple of games?
I would love to not see Nasus 3. I don't know why that got me so emotional, but it was very interesting to see again just the story of one cost units finding their strength, right? Breaking through the caste system, breaking, expectations, and really showing how powerful an early tier 3 unit can be. I mean, we've already seen it twice today with a Diana and a Tristana where the Tristana was there for the whole game, but carried through the mid game no problem, right? And the Diana got to the late game for the Talon that ended up winning, right? So
Yep.
these one cost units can even finish the game as Raye, I believe, had a tier 3 Nidalee for the majority of the game and able to take down things like tier 2 Swains with Titan's Resolve, Warmog's Vanguard spat.
Yep.
And that used to not happen as frequently. And now that people are getting these units, the other thing that I'm intrigued about is again game length, and that seems to be like a really weird thing to be intrigued about. But how the damage is spread out amongst the group in this type of meta is actually very intriguing to me.
Yeah, definitely. We had, game number one go to what, like not barely even halfway through stage six, but in that last game going to 7-2, I believe. And it was off the back of a lot of players, or a few players last game, maintaining their HP pretty well. There's only really one person doing that in game number one, but it was, kind of spread the love in terms of all the health pools in that second game. We move on right now to game number three, and we'll have to see what adjustments are made, what players have decided after the break, and what they roll, honestly, because it seems like a lot of players have the game plan of, oh, if I find direction in terms of a one cost chosen, I'm just going to press the D key a lot and re-roll. If I play strong board, so be it. I can, kind of do
Yeah,
similarly to what Jirachy pulled off in game number one, but perhaps have a bit of a better, transitional period there, getting you to perhaps a bit better than just a fourth. But starting off with IceBarriers here, and IceBarriers is the player that played Tristana 3 in the last game. And I wonder if they're going to be trying to do that again,
ooh,
considering that it only netted a fifth and they hit super early. So
super early,
yeah, we'll
and
see.
like and Annie literally just ate every single bullet from from that Tristana like it was nothing, and eliminated him on the last lobby that we did play that Tristana on. Something that I wanted to piggyback on, as we do have a little bit of time here in these early moments, is another reason why we're seeing golden units so often, and it is the chosen mechanic, right?
Yep.
The chosen mechanic counts as 3 units. So I remember asking more not too long ago before this set, before Chosen's, like how many tier 3 5 cost units have ever been created? Right. And it was probably the number was about like 25, right? Total. But now, if you get a 5 cost chosen, you get your fortune payout. You have a lot of different ways of developing units, right? Plus Nico's help, plus Lucky Lanterns. I think loaded dice was kind of the last big kind of you pick a unit that you want type of situation. Not me. When I went in ASOL, the only thing that pops up is Annie's. When I put it Annie's and Nunu's when I put it on the ASOL, but with so many options and possibilities of making your units golden, and not just tier 1 units, but also your Nunu's, the Annie's, like we're saying, those tier 2 units too. We're just seeing them more often. You've got to react to that. You've got to speed up your play because of that. And in TFT, it tends to be the case where what is the best counter to the top comp? The same comp. And so, or the same type of comp. And that does seem to be happening right now. I like re rolling personally, so I don't have a very strong opinion,
Got you.
philosophically on where this goes, because I think there is a place for this type of meta. I think there's a place for everything that we're seeing here within the game. But like I said before, it's the first time we're really seeing I think we're seeing the biggest difference between casual and competitive gamers right now. And the reroll just feels less less, right?
Yep.
Like you're doing less. And the skill expression doesn't feel
Mm.
like it's there. I do think that it is there in other ways that are harder to see, but I think that's where the assumption is coming from a lot of people when it comes to this meta. As we do see a Nasus this time going to go with straight damage, no crit with that Rabadon super early on. That Nasus is scary.
Yeah, we're not going to see it turn into a Nasus 3 because IceBarriers sold off one of the Nasuses that was on the bench and decided to level up to level 4 earlier than just naturally leveling. So not opting in for that route, which is very curious to me. A lot of players would be very, very tempted to stick with that Nasus. Don't maybe not make the death cap, but at least roll for Nasus 3. Makes me wonder if they scouted anybody else who also had an Nasus. Maybe they didn't want to contest, but not doing too much scouting as of right now, so we can't quite tell. But this Nasus, just look at this healing. It just actually will never die. At least at this portion of the game to this comp.
Even with the armor debuff from Vi, right? One of notoriously the strongest early game units in the game, right? You put a Ludens on Vi early on, you're not going to survive for at least 2 or 3 rounds. But even with the debuffs, right? Even with the grievous wounds, this Nasus and the last Nasus we saw with the Siphoner buff is healing through 90% of the damage. It seems to be more of a get Nasus to this point of health by the time you have this number of units remaining, or else you lose. Right. And so that's going to be what we see. Kind of like how I have that little trick of how many spaces are we away from Kale? Are we going to win or lose? Like at this point in time, I think you can kind of draw that same conclusion when it comes to that Nasus, that it just needs to be below a certain amount of health at a certain point in the round, which hasn't happened just yet, but might here because of the consistent damage coming from these cultists. But still might not be enough, especially with that Ingrid splashing some damage in. That Mana Reave, though, from the Elise seems like a really good counter.
Okay.
But we did make it past that threshold. Do you see like that? Almost exactly what I was talking about in that round when it comes to getting that Nasus below a certain point, then doing a thing of burst damage to take him down, because you're not going to get him down with slow DPS damage.
Yeah, the Nidalee Spear sealed the deal there. And if that Nidalee actually taken a little bit more damage, she would have fallen, and the Nasus actually would have won there. But BKrisz in that last round level up to 5 before the carousel. So did Laplace, actually. People are playing so aggressively. This is unorthodox aggression coming out from multiple players here, which is even more unorthodox, I guess I'll say. Multiple people, doing that, but IceBarriers gets punished for it. BKrisz gets rewarded. Doesn't preserve a streak though. Maybe wanted to, just get one going. But we're gonna have a really early Lucky Lantern here. It's gonna be a Magnetic Remover as well as one component, so not gonna be changing the game too much here.
I love Magnetic Remover as a consumable in this game. I think it's one of the best things of the new set 4.5. Personally, I really like target dummy. Target. It's me. I'm the target dummy. How funny would that be if I was able to just be like on the on the target dummy? I love
Cosplaying
that.
target dummy.
Oh, that's a great idea. Writing down. But no, like now, this Nasus is going to be what I am looking at. No grievous wounds for now, but Callista is going to be the thing that ends up taking them down. But enough secondary and tertiary damage to deal with the rest of the units. And again, it's just like that. How many units are left versus the Nasus? Well, it was 3v3, and against Nasus, you're going to lose that most of the time. Fiora, it's not in the notes, but like you said, feels like got a buff somehow, right? Fiora with Ludens has been getting a little popular. Again, just that spread damage. Ludens, arguably the best early game item. That's not a item holder situation like a Chalice or a Locket.
Yeah, Fiora very, very strong in the early game, especially if she's chosen, making her a bit tankier there. I think, Fiora got reverted from having the chosen bonus be mana changing to, I think, HP again. It swapped around a couple of times there. But single persona, gonna be rocking the 3 fortune right now, going on a loss streak. Gonna have to pay attention to when that cash out actually happens. I saw the fortune this time. We didn't miss it. Didn't miss it. But this Katarina also has 2 out of 3 perfect items for a well, not good enough to go against that Callista though. Annie gonna be taking out the Fiora, but she will eventually fall here. But it's good if you're Persona, right? You're stacking up this loss streak for a big cash out, then you can get rid of them. Just play the Katarina and just play Warlords. I think this is really, really solid.
I totally do too. Any Warlord package to start is very, very solid. And to do Warlord and Fortune, it usually means that you packed a Orb Cat early on,
Yep.
or Darius, for example. And it just goes to show where Darius is in the meta, where you're choosing to keep the cat. Yeah, the items are really good on the cat, but you know, we're just gonna go ahead and leave that Darius on the bench. So the
Yeah.
Olafs, the Slayers, the Zeds, definitely not happening right now for Persona.
Yeah. Gonna get a Yumi, a Vi, and a Rod there. No QSS. I think QSS is gonna be the third item of choice here for this Katarina. Gonna be putting in a Vi just for another brawler, but again, going over the Warlord and Fortune thing here, they just go so hand in hand together if you have the Katarina. It makes the transition super easy. You already have the Warlord chosen Garen. You already have the Tom Kench and the Vi here synergizing with each other. You get the Fortune and you get the Brawler buff for more frontline as well. It's just a lot of things really working well together here for single Persona. And even with the 4 loss streak, you're at 82 HP, which is fairly good. You're not worried being at this HP because it's not like it's low here. Your Katarina might not win the round. Nidalee might find the Spirit didn't hit the Katarina, but the Mana Reader from the Elise. It's longer for her to get online. Cleans up a couple units there, but single Persona gonna be still racking up the loss streak.
5 losses at 74 HP is solid.
Yeah.
Like, you could probably win a round and still have 74 HP at this point, depending on like when you won it, right? If you won your first or second round, you could still find yourself here. Like Laplace and A-Ray probably have both won a round at some point. But
Yep.
74 on a 5-game loss streak, which is I think all but one. Infernix must be losing by a lot more. That's a very good look at a good loss versus a bad loss. Yeah, they're 7th and 8th place, right? But 7th place is still going to pick first in carousel. 7th place is still going to get that advantage, and you're going to have a little bit more room to wiggle to climb out of it. And so 74 HP is very, very good for this point in the game.
And I like what we're seeing here. Not necessarily on single Persona's board, as that loss is a bit heavier than maybe would have liked. But from the other boards, we do see our our chosen Zed there. So I think it's gonna be the first Zed tonight. We also saw a Yasuo 3, I believe, as well. So gonna be seeing how these compositions fare against, say, the re-rolling and against the Kales and perhaps even like the Swain 2s of the lobby. Because we were kind of, while the meta's pretty, I wouldn't even say it's narrow. I was gonna say it's pretty narrow in terms of like, okay, reroll or Kale, but there's gonna be a bit more flexibility than just that, and I'm glad we're seeing even more flexibility again on top of that.
Flexibility is something that I think is really valued when it comes to a TFT player amongst the community, right? Like if you're able to be a flexible player, then a lot of people will automatically respect you, right? If you're able to win in a bunch of different ways. There are very, very popular mono comp players, right? In set 1, it was your Yordle friends. In set 2, I don't know why I don't remember anything. It was don't
worry, I
anyway.
blocked set 2 from my memory as well. It's my least favorite set for sure. So I'm right there with you. All I know is okay,
right,
yeah,
the specialists.
Man, now you got me thinking about set 2. I'm just like, real quick aside, my least favorite thing about set 2, which is why I just have like such a like nope, didn't like it, was like one of the best comps in the game was the comp where you had like Azir as your main carry. But if your Azir soldier spawned at like some random unit and their Azir soldier spawned in yours, you just lose the matchup and it was like completely random RNG. So I just like that concept is just like, oof. That's why like I strongly dislike units that have random in their targeting. even though some of it now with actually a great job that Mort and the rest of the team has done is that some of the random targeting is like random improved targeting. Like Nico, I think is random targeting, but she'll in this set, but she will target like clumps of units or will prioritize clumps of units instead. So
Tryndamere as well.
Yeah.
Is in the he will ult through the most amount of units from his point, right? And all that backend stuff, by the way, guys, is very, very hard to program into the game. So, and not something that I would ever have the patience to do myself. So props to a lot of the people working on this, but single persona has definitely graduated into a separate part of this game, which is we had to rush to level 7 in order to stop the hemorrhaging of our HP, and it still might not work.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this, to be honest. If you're rolling to level or leveling to 7 on 3-5, which is fine to do, I don't think you really want to dip okay, I guess the only scenario where it's okay to dip below this amount of gold is if you really don't want to get stuck in Fortune Jail and want to cash out, which is the scenario that single persona is in right now. But I don't even think the board got that much stronger, I guess is my gripe here. I think you want to put in the Azir here for 6 Warlord. You can take out the Pike. The assassin buff isn't gonna really be what's carrying the fight. Sure, Katarina is an assassin, but that's not gonna be what's giving her a lot of that damage, in my opinion. I think Azir is a lot more valuable,
I
but single
think,
persona is still rocking this board regardless.
yeah, this looks like a friendly matchup, but you
Okay,
never
it
know
will
with the
be.
Nasus. And it is going to work out if that Nasus had that. I almost said it again. Declaw. It is going to be much harder to take that Nasus down, but we are
There
going to
we
go ahead
go.
and pay out. I believe that was 6. So we're gonna go ahead and move some units out of the way.
Should have been 8, yeah, 8 or 8 lost cash out, I believe.
Okay, so 1 Nico's,
Oh!
Kale 2, have not seen that. That's okay. All right, so,
Okay.
too bad, not too bad. We are on an
Oh.
NPC round as well. So okay, okay.
Sold it. Didn't even want to see what items, just straight up selling it. Said, "Don't tempt me, Kale.
It
I
was the
am
right
not."
choice.
Yeah.
Ended up being the right choice, but if we saw 4 bows pop up out of those wolves, we would have seen m much regret, from single persona.
Yeah, that would have been an easy pivot, IMO. We do get actually a Warlord banner, and I wouldn't have minded making Warlord Kale, to be honest. That would have been interesting. No items, so it's neither here nor there. Correct decision to sell it. We do have 2 Nikos on the item bench here. The QSS should be slammed right now. I'm not sure why that's being hesitated upon, but the Jirachy once again finds themselves in a 100 HP scenario so far into the game, and they're doing it off the back of some duelists and Callista having 3 very strong items here.
Mhm. Let's see how strong this warlord comp is going to end up being
Yeah.
after a fortune payout. Usually don't see a fortune payout and then a loss, but we are going to see that as Jirachy is going to be taking him down, and that Rabadon's death cap on the Callista is a best in slot item in my opinion for that particular character. I think maybe the only character in which Rabadon's could be argued as as a best in slot item. But yes, that Rabadon's is going to make the execution range a lot higher, and that's going to
Ooh.
be a direct counter to Nasus, as well as Samira seems to be a direct counter to most of TFT
Yep,
right now.
exactly. Oh man, this Samira 2 on 4-2, Boop.
It's dreams. This is what dreams are made of. Right? Is that it?
Yeah,
Am I
QSS getting
cool with the
slammed.
kids?
You're very hip, Boop. Wow, great job.
Oh, radical. Radical.
Maybe lost some
Sweet.
points there. You
Uh,
know who's not going to lose any more points? HP points, single persona in these rounds, because that is a smear 2 once again on 4-2. Don't even need the Katarina upgrade right now, but we are on 7 Warlords, well on our way to perhaps achieving 9.
well, which is really great because those warlords had zilch wins before this happened, and so single persona is very lucky that we hit that fortune payout. As we go over to the Jirachy, I wonder what a Jirachy is. I'm going to look that up in a second. But they are looking pretty good here. They beat that Fortune comp a little earlier from single persona, but that was pre Samira 2, I believe.
Yeah.
And we're going to need, if we want this Callista to start, continue owning those praises, right? Not, be a fast starter and then fizzle out at the end, is to get this Callista to tier 3.
Yeah, it's possible. There is a couple Callistas on the bench there. If the Jirachy finds a chosen Callista, I think that would be the route. But if they find a bunch of kills, the pivot I think is already there. You have the Kindred on the bench for Executioner potential. If you're the Jirachy, you're gonna level up to 8 after this round and start rolling, and that is gonna be, of course, the correct decision. I'm curious upon what they end up on, however, after these rolls do go by. So stay tuned. I await with bated breath to see where this ends up, because this is like, this roll down is what's going to separate a potential first place from a oof, I might get exactly 4th again, or maybe even like 5th if it goes super poorly.
Yeah, this is you already see them kind of reacting, getting like mentally prepared for what's about to happen,
Yeah.
right? Like we're getting focused, and I have run out of time on these roll downs before. Like say you like, and most of the time it's actually when it's going well and you actually hit a bunch of units that you need, and then all of a sudden you have to start working on your bench space. But we are getting more cultists, more Callistas. This is kind of like what I'm talking about, where you're able to pick up like a bunch of different stuff, and now you have to decide to move champions around, sell some champions. What are you feeling at this point in time, Mr. Khroen?
I'm feeling like there is no good direction that Jirachy has found. Their HP is still high. They still are going to have probably 20-ish gold after selling some units on the bench here, but that roll down, I think, was a little bit less than optimal. It wasn't the worst. We picked up a couple of Callistas, so it can randomly perhaps be a carry. Again, if you get to that tier 3, it's what you are noting as exactly what you need if Callista is going to scale into the late game. And kind of strong now. Put in Aatrox, got the Cultist in, still running with a lot of small synergies here, but still no Chosen, which is the main concerning thing, I would say.
Totally. And the other thing about this comp that Jirachy is running that's very interesting, that I think we kind of noted last week, is how supporty Vladimir is
Yeah.
to the rest of the team, on how he kind of functions as an off tank utility support. I would say that he's closer to a Janna and a Yumi than like a damage unit, to be completely honest with you, because of that AoE heal. If we get it off a couple times, that's a cultist win, especially if we're able to get a heal onto Galio. That's why it takes so long for this Vlad to heal. So I've seen some builds with like duelist Vlad, or things that help him with his mana, but it's a very big deal to get this Vlad to ult. He's not going to get a ton of value this time around, but Aatrox finishes his cast because of that. So that's an extra 100 damage or so because of a Vladimir ult. It's going to help this Callista now switch targets, right? And is going to be potentially a reason why we win this round.
Yep, Callista going to narrowly win the round, reviving from that GA, made the difference there. That was super close. That was against an Olaf 1, but it did have perfect items, so if that was Olaf 2, the fight definitely would have gone the other way. Seeing a bit of swapping up of units here from the Jirachy. I'm curious to see this Raptor round and then the roll down, but after that, perhaps moving on to a player like IceBarriers at that point. Towards the bottom of the lobby, because might not have a lot of time left with them in this game if things go poorly. But for now, the Jirachy, a lot of things riding on this neutral round and the subsequent roll down thereafter.
What a crazy couple rounds for the Jirachy, though, right? Like, we get to see 2 roll downs from this player in 3 rounds, pretty much. So the way that we were able to get up our economy so quickly was very impressive, as we have decided that a chosen at this point is better than no chosen. We do get adept, which is one of, I call those like consolation chosens, right? It's when you get like the mystic chosen for Zillion. Well, that's actually what you want, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it's like when you used to run Ari comps pre pre, and post the RE days. It's just sometimes if you don't really have anything to run, this is a really good thing to run, right? Is pick up that chosen, pick up that mystic chosen, pick up that spirit chosen, and see where that gets you. And you can do a little bit of a late game transition a little later as the Vlad gets separated from the rest of the team. And this is why that Callista also needs to be Callista 3. It gives you a little bit more HP, and this front line just isn't doing enough right now.
It's gonna be an AD Irelia, it looks like, IEBT. It'll probably get sold off there from the Jirachy, but we do move on over to IceBarriers, who is perhaps on their one of their last rounds, and I think we can see why here. Kale items are solid, but it is a Kale 1. Supportive items there from the Kindred are solid, but it's buffing up again a Kale 1 and a Zaya 1. And it's going up against Single Persona, who is on that Samira 2, who is on now that Katarina 2, and I don't think this round is going to go anywhere near an IceBarriers' favor.
I agree. And because this Kale is gonna be saved by Samira's targeting for now, but too much on the board. There's no way Single Persona loses this. It does a ton of damage at 5-2. So that was 16 damage at 5-2. That was almost max damage there. But also I want everyone to take a look at the rest of the lobby, right? BKrisz in second at 33 HP. And we've got Jirachy hitting that tier 3 Callista, so it's a big deal for them. But Raye having a very inconsistent night. Remember when I said the inconsistency will be the consistency here? And it's
exactly.
happening.
Yeah, it is. You couldn't be more right in that regard, actually, right now, because it's what's happening to players like Raye. Going from an 8th to I believe it was a 2nd, maybe now to a 7th. Like, it's just kind of all over the place here.
And we have a lot of people who, like BKrisz, who got first in the lobby and then got 6th in the next. So a lot of things can happen, especially on these lobbies when things get mega close. And so when we have a bunch of people within about 20 HP, these losses are so much more intense, right? Every loss you feel even more because every loss brings you closer and closer to that defeat, and you don't have that net to save you, right? When you have a 20 HP difference between 4th and 5th, you can be like, all right, I'm gonna econ a couple rounds, I'll get to NPC, then I'll start spending money. Now you got to make a decision every single round, right? And every single round you could win or lose right now, and everyone from Single Persona down is experiencing that. Honestly, a little jealous of IceBarriers to not be a part of like how stressful this lobby has really become, because this is when TFT gets like really intense between that player versus player dynamic as well.
Yeah, I mean, personally, kind of thrive in these stressful situations where like one round could be your last. It is fun from at least personally my competitor perspective, but I'm sure it is different for everybody, and these players are going to be stressed out in a situation like this. The Pikachu has an Orin 2 and has had the Orin 2 for a while. Notably, did not lock or sell anything for that pair of Zillions. Perhaps they missed it. I think they could have just like sold the Sejuani on the bench and got that pair there. But they do have that Blitzcrank hook from the form of the artifact. It's not going to do anything amazing here. It's just going to actually hook a Sand Soldier here. But the Single Persona, this is going to be scary for both players here, actually.
All right, you can never really count that Kale out, but I don't think that Kale rolled healing. And this is, man, Warlord's so strong. Warlord strong, so good. Like if you're really struggling at the early game with committing to something, just pick up a Nidalee and start building Warlords. You will probably learn a lot about the game that way. But Pikachu going to respond to that loss by changing up where the units are. We have a Dragon Soul set here, and Phoenix did fall in 7th, and so that is who's leading our lobby, right? This is what we mean by inconsistency is the consistency of the day. Same thing with Raye, who got 2nd last lobby, potentially might be 5th or 6th this time around. Everyone from Laplace down within 1 or 2 fights. Single Persona might have one. Jirachy's gonna get top 4, potentially top 2, based on their war of attrition right now, on how much HP they were able to hoard at the beginning of the game.
I'm pretty sure this happened exactly last time the Jirachy. The Callista got Blitzcrank hooked in, or from the artifact at least, and took a bunch of damage yet again. Needs to not have that Callista in the corner, because that's just like a mistake that you really can't be making at this point in the game. Still 43 HP, a lot of probably going to get top 4, just because of the HP differential and how much they saved in the early game, but have to be more aware of that. Also, the artifact is the Eternal Winter, is it called? The one that's on the Sejuani for the Pikachu right now. Probably the best artifact, in my opinion, in the game. It's just, I'm pretty sure, just outvalues all of the rest there. It's going to be the one that slows and then freezes people who attack it.
You.
Yeah, and the utility is just so important there.
Utility is actually, in this particular meta, a little harder to find. We used to have a ton of utility-based characters that would find their way into the comps, but really it's been like, I guess it's always been Shen and Yumi, right? In terms of where that, and like Zillion, because of being a 5-cost mystic. But other than that, it's been damage and tanks. Right now, a lot of tankiness. That's a Cat 3, I think I saw. So those Golden Warriors are going to even eat up this Elderwood comp potentially. And so we do have another Hyper Roll comp, this time with a Yasuo, and we have an RFC Lee Sin, which is actually sometimes a bait, because sometimes you kick and then change targets, and so you never actually kick anyone out. And we got a couple kicks off, but no actual eliminations, as we're probably going to get a couple eliminations here. Khroen is going to finish in 5th, and Raye, who got a nice 2nd place last lobby, is going to get 6th place this time around. 22 HP for Laplace, 5 for Pikachu, single persona at 2, and the Jirachy winning that last round. They are double the HP of a 2nd place. And as time goes on, that's actually going to be quite valuable, as Laplace and Pikachu will inevitably have to face each other at some point.
Okay, the lot comes in for this Zillion, and honestly, that was an Eternal Winter difference right there in that last fight versus the Duelist. Like, you saw the value of that so much. Sejuani being the sole frontline unit here, a lot of things are going to get stuck on it, going to get attack speed slowed, going to get frozen. Sejuani actually ulting backwards, a little troll there, but the damage dealers in the back are still alive between the Kale and the Zaya. Samira, though, dashing into both of them and taking one of them out.
It's going to be Zaya.
Yeah.
Look at that Hand of Justice healing together with the Triforce, single persona getting eliminated through an Executioner comp. Man, you see that Samira and you're like, it's going down, and it's actually only going to be a 4th place. And that Samira happened very early, if you guys remember. So because of a fortune payout. So we still have the Pikachu and Laplace still around. And again, they will inevitably have to face off against each other, but that doesn't matter, as Jirachy got that lead totally eliminated on that last round. Right now, the Warlord comp, in my opinion, is the strongest comp in the game. Well, Laplace, though, with the set 2, could definitely make a argument for that.
Yeah, set 2 with Dragon Soul. The Swain is in there as well. This composition looking super strong. Olaf trying to tear through this composition, will do so. Olaf definitely kind of 1v9 that one. The only unit to really do damage in that fight.
Okay. Jirachy now in 2nd place, so that HP hoarding is going to potentially end up in a 3rd place. A little bit better than that 4th place, but consistency is key in a game like this. And with how inconsistent everyone else has been doing, keeping that 6 and 7 points, I think someone else who was like a professional at getting top 3 by only getting 4th was Mr. Esports Law himself.
Yeah.
Bryce Blum. So we've seen our 4th place player get into 3rd because of that consistency. So it could happen as the Pikachu does finally find that mystic Zillion. So the Samir was what we were really countering for a lot of that, but the set now is going to be a little countered by that Zillion 2. Both players on fire right now, so they haven't lost in a bit. I believe they will face each other next, and Jirachy should face a Ghost, but I could be wrong.
I think one of the other ones can face the Ghost, but then the Ghost would be Pikachu or Laplace.
Oh, it's going to be
But
Jirachy and
oh, okay,
Laplace instead, so it's going to be Pikachu facing the Ghost.
yep. 2 win streaks could still continue here, but let's see what happens in this fight.
That Olaf gets taken down very, very quickly because of that Callista, but there's just too much remaining as the Jirachy will fall. Will we get a double elimination here? Potentially. We
Oh,
might.
feathers
When we pull
fly.
back, feathers fly. So does the set. And we do get a double elimination as Laplace takes the lobby win. 3 different lobby winners so far today.
And off the back of 6 Dragon Soul, not a comp that we see take lobbies very often at all.
Mhm.
Laplace piloting that super, super well, and that's going to shake up the standings here. I'm excited to see how things are looking after that. There's a lot of inconsistency, as you said. If there's one thing that the competition tonight is going for them, it's that there's consistency in the inconsistency. But you know who has been consistent? It is Laplace with 2 firsts in a row, and the
Oh, 2 firsts
Jirachy
in a
with
row.
all. Yeah, and the Jirachy with all top 4s so far. I believe looking quickly, yeah, the only player to top 4 every single game so far. So they are both first and second respectively. And Phoenix and BKrisz at 17 points apiece and a 3-way tie there for 5th at 12 points. So there's actually opportunity for one of these players at the bottom to perhaps break into a top 4. Top 3 would be very hard to do, if not impossible. I don't know. I'm not a math major myself, but it's still looking pretty good for Laplace and Jirachy there to secure top 3 finishes.
Yeah, I majored in tuba, so the fact that I can be an adult is something that I'm very proud of. So don't worry about and that's still arguable. But one thing that I want to talk about Laplace is why doesn't it feel as dominating as say Infernix's performance or Hobo's or Numano performance? Because Laplace has done well over the last couple weeks, but we don't speak of his play or their play like that. So what do you think the reasoning behind kind of like the different narrative is there? Are we just needing to change our narrative and match where Laplace is, or is Laplace doing something that's keeping him under the radar? Because there is a huge benefit to that as well, especially in lobby games like this.
Without looking at it specifically and analytically, it would be hard to answer, but I think I'd lean towards kind of the former there that you suggested. It's kind of we got to get on the Plaza's page here and really start analyzing what it is they're doing, because it's obviously something right. Coming back for this week, getting 2 firsts in a row, kind of the spotlight. You know, the pressure was on Infernix after the 3 firsts in a row for last week, so that's where my mind was at. The Jirachy has had some really, really great plays today. Can only keep track of so much, but definitely got to start keeping track of Laplace just a little bit more, especially as we move forward into this game number 4, which we will have here very, very shortly.
I love how we make fun of ourselves as being bad at math, but we cast TFT. Right, like, which I
Yeah.
think has a lot of basic math principles that you need to be good at, and the only math we're bad at is score tabulation. It doesn't even have to be, like, TFT stuff, right? It's, like, the literal use your hands to count and you'll be fine. But
Yeah.
we don't do that because we like taking risks here.
Hey, if you got
Here at Fight Night Rising.
you only have so many hands to count what could be so many scenarios of what happens in these game 4 placements. It's a lot harder than you make it out to seem here, Boop. You
It's
know,
true.
don't make us look too bad here on the broadcast.
Yep.
Caster math is memed for a reason, of course, and I'm understanding it more and more as each day I continue on as a full-time caster now. So
It is something every caster will talk about. Every caster has a hot mic experience, and every caster has like a math situation that happens. Yeah. My
yeah.
hot mic experience was proclaiming my love through some profanity of
I remember.
hollandaise sauce. And so I was just talking about hollandaise and how it's a wonderful sauce, and that was my hot mic moment. You'll have yours soon one day, Khroen. It'll happen.
Am I? Maybe. I don't know. I'm if I'm not like prompted, I'm generally pretty quiet, but yeah, you might be right. You might be right.
All right. So let's go ahead and talk about this once more. Let's talk about the math real quick, especially since Laplace is leading the pack
Yeah.
by winning 2 lobbies. Something that I always point out, right, is that it's hard to lead through 3 lobbies and finish in the lead in the 4th. It's just the name of the game when it comes to this format. Being consistent over 4 lobbies is hard, right?
Yeah.
It's hard for any of us to be consistent throughout a day, especially here in quarantine. I've been consistently gaining weight, but other than that, it's been really hard. So now that we're over at BKrisz, I really want to see where he ends up, because he started off very strong, right? And then we kind of
Yeah.
let him, go a little bit, and now we're actually potentially on the brink of getting eliminated. So from the top 3, so we need a top 3 finish, and that's the other thing about the current standings is, if you're Jirachy, if you're Infernix, if you're really anyone in the running, that top 3 is going to be how you control your own destiny.
Definitely, especially important for the players kind of like on the bubble there, like you were talking about with Infernix and BKrisz, both at 17 points here. And a poor placement could knock them out into the bottom 4, but a high one basically secures your spot in the top 3. So a lot riding on that narrative right there. Also, I see a reference in the chat. It's got to give a quick shout out, to Khroen, who cannot do 7+2, maybe the worst, maybe the worst at math out of all the TFT players in the community. That moment will definitely live on immortally
It's
in the
so
TFT
funny.
history.
It's so funny. Everyone that's got to be clipped somewhere, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you gotta go look it up. It, like, the whole situation is funny. You know you know what I mean? Anyway,
Yeah.
that's what 7+2 is, everyone, just so you know.
Yeah, it's
I
not
also
8, by the
wanna
way.
I also want to talk about what Faye said, because I don't know if you saw the Animaniacs reboot, but they did like a whole episode of math problems, but like it was real, right? So they had like 2 trains going up against each other and a bunch of passengers panicking. Just watch it. It's hard to explain because it's very
Okay.
metaphorical, but the new Animaniacs is good. This 4th lobby is gonna be good. We're killing it. A Raye 100 HP along with 4 other people, because there's only been 1 round, Khroen, as we look at all
Wow.
of these items coming across.
Oh,
I actually think there was a singular tier on the bench for Krisz, yeah, along with the GA. We haven't seen many Zed comps. We've seen a singular Slayer comp with a carry Olaf, which finished in the top 2, I believe, but it's going to be this Keeper, Elise. So instead of Cultist, I'd say right now it's that Cultist Keeper setup that's been around since the beginning of this set.
yeah. I think this is solid still, going with the Cultist Keeper, notably who's coming off of a win in the NA Qualifier 3 GV8. Does I wouldn't say prefer, but is not a stranger to running Cultist in the mid game and then transitioning out of it. Cultist still very well can find its way into being a solid part of your TFT experience in this set, no matter how many people are re-rolling or just trying to press D at level 7 or 8 and hit the KOs.
Mhm.
Also, Elise, I think after seeing these changes to her Mana Reave effect now, she is really solid. I actually like that
Yeah.
change a lot. It seems to get a very solid amount of value in multiple situations. BKrisz going to be pre-leveling up to 5, but Laplace actually, even last round, had already leveled up to 5 super aggressively with their own chosen Elise. And I want to check out Laplace's view after this board to kind of that's really the story here. I think you nailed it in saying, like, we got to get on the Laplace's kind of side of the table here, see things from their perspective, because they're clearly doing something right, being number 1 going into this game number 4, coming off of 2 first places. So I'm trying to see where all these decisions are going to lead them.
Get an ambulance, but not for me,
Yeah.
says Laplace's Elise. And this is going really, really well for Laplace. This isn't like a set in stone first place that we see sometimes in the 4th lobby. Like, we still need to finish quite well in order to like really secure our spot and make a statement, right? Like, a player like this needs to make a statement like that in order for us to continue this vibe that we got going for Laplace right now.
Yeah.
And we know how this can be a jumping off point for a lot of people, and Laplace could potentially be that person. And Phoenix, however, having a little bit of a hard time right now. All 4 lobbies, though, has raced to the bottom and then rolled, hyper rolling pretty much. Remember, he is number 1 on the EU ladder. So it's not
Yeah.
a sense of the quality of the player. It might be the quality of the roles right now.
True. Yeah, TFT, I mean, at the end of the day, when you roll, you gotta hit. Sure, you can mitigate bad RNG by like maybe scraping out like a 5th place or a 4th place, but you can't always win lobbies if your rolls are pretty doomed.
I love that you said that, Khroen, because the other day I had a 6th place that I think might be one of the most proud games I've ever had.
Yeah,
Right? It's
sometimes you
not
gotta,
like
yeah, exactly.
yeah, and I have a couple of those like 4th place games too, where I'm like, I shouldn't be here. You know,
Hmm.
and the reason why I got there was because I played really well, right? And it was still a 4th place. And so really, ladies and gentlemen and pals at home, it's you got to keep you got to keep trucking, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes your best game that day was actually your 6th place game,
Hmm.
right? And you have to be able to find that and find that glory for yourself, because that can happen. And knowing when to cut losses is so much better than being disappointed by not winning.
Yep.
Right. And so cut your losses, get the highest you go. And if you win, then be, I think, pleasantly surprised versus constantly being disappointed that you're not getting first every
Yeah.
round. That's very important, I think, to learn as a TFT player.
Definitely, totally agree with you. That's somewhat like when I'm, watching and casting a lot more TFT nowadays, it's those moments that stand out as really impressive to me. It's like, oh, that looked like an 8th. How did they come back and get like a 5th or a 4th in that game? Like that's like
Exactly.
insanely impressive to do from that spot. And oftentimes those are the scenarios that are the hardest to work with. It's easy to play with a lead. It is not easy to play with all the decisions correctly from that disadvantaged state.
Mhm. Imagine, your HP in terms of like weight in a backpack, right? So right now, Infernix's backpack is a lot heavier than everyone else's. He has to carry a lot more weight for longer before he can start taking that weight out by investing money, getting a new backpack, for example,
Yeah.
right? What Laplace needs to do is he's totally cool with patching this backpack. It's working just fine.
Yeah.
You, you know what I mean? And so we're just chilling, we're vibing. We can actually lose a couple of rounds. We Gucci. And so and we have like no items. So this is really, really good, because the items that we do have is a Sunfire cape, which is one of the best items, full
Yep.
stop. Especially on someone like a Sir Thomas or Sir Tomphny, where you are gonna be able to get a lot of value out of it because of just how the character is made.
Exactly. I had a quick thought that I wanted to just entertain. Maybe you had some perspective on this. You know how last week Infernix went triple first, and then I believe it was like a 6th, and
Or 7th,
Laplace right
yeah.
now might go into 6th and then triple firsts. I wonder
Ah.
if Infernix would have had a different perspective in the interview if that 6 was in the game number 1 and they ended on 3 firsts, or if they would have been as hard on themselves, because Laplace could be in that scenario where you start out slow, but then you get triple firsts, and I bet that would feel a lot better, I would say, to the average TFT player, as opposed to like ending on that 6th place when you had those high expectations running for you, going for the record, perhaps like all that
Yeah.
pressure building up. But
Ugh.
it's not there for Laplace here, and they're probably just cruising. They're like, all right,
Yeah, they're
in a
vibing.
good spot here. If I even get like top 4 here, no stress. I can probably just like win.
Yeah. And I'm gonna call Infernix out just for a second. You were way too hard on yourself, sir. You did something amazing, and I don't think he appreciated how awesome of a day that was, right? Was very much like Gun May, who I think could at one point win $1 million, but hate himself for it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think like the same thing kind of happened with Infernix. And that can be tough to live with every day, right? So you have to take appreciation as we go into Chris's therapy corner, I guess. You have to take appreciation of what you do well. And again, that is when you do get your 6th places, right? Because
Yeah.
when the game that I'm talking about, I had a period of time where I was on like an 8-game losing streak. I wasn't even playing Fortune. I had no units. And then, I pivoted like 2 or 3 times and then reached my way, and I competed for 4th place. It was one of those things where I lost a tiebreaker with 3 people, right? So again, like I'm so proud of that decision making. I'm so proud of what that could have been, right? If I was just better that day, right?
Mhm.
And I think that Infernix needs to really take note of how good they are, right? And then build upon that. It's always better to build on strengths than weaknesses. Anyway, we are going to have Galio pop right in, and it is going to die immediately. Supreme Overlord Galio is going to be Supreme Tasty Galio for that Nunu, and Nunu's gonna get another snack. When my friends and I are playing, every time that Nunu ults, we do the Yoshi sound. You know, nom.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty apt, I would say. I
Yeah.
enjoy that. I enjoy that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Infernix, though, struggling in this lobby right as of now. Went 6 brawlers, but no items that are really good to slam besides maybe an RFC on the Shyvana. But you would really rather prioritize Runans first. Just a little bit awkward, a little bit of a slow start here. They could salvage things, Nico the Shyvana, but I would say items are going to be doing a bit more for you than just getting that tier 2 unit. Yeah, 7 loss streak right now. They're probably going to be stronger than some players in the lobby. It's just a matter of matchups and which ones you roll at that point here. Shyvana going to be leaping across the battlefield, going into that transformed state. And this might finally be a win, it seems. The Nunu is still alive, full HP, and 6 Brawler gives you a lot of stats, not only in HP, but also in the attack damage.
See, it's
as
great.
well.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I think a brawler. I've been a brawler player since set 1. I'm sorry, everyone. When Demon Bear was a thing, and
The Demon Volibear with
yeah, I miss that
RFC.
version of Volibear for some reason. I don't know why, but I
Man,
really miss that version of Volibear.
who was it? It was like Josh OG that randomly would like in that one like big
Yeah,
tournament that
yeah, the
event
very
played
first
Volibear
ever, the
like
very
TFT
first ever
tournament.
Twitch Rivals, and then we invited him on. He was like, "Yeah, it's a fun game. I just kind of entered and played this and won." And I was like,
And
"Why?"
played Volibear every single game and won.
Yeah, and so I've been a brawler player for a while, and it's just so cool to see that we finally get attack damage along with our HP, because where the game currently is, brawler comps need to win the war of attrition. It used to be just I have more HP than you do damage, right?
Yep.
So my death by 1,000 paper cuts is gonna win over your lack of damage on my HP. Right. And what I think is going on right now is because we are experimenting with adding that attack damage. Units like Nunu benefit from something like 10 AD, which doesn't feel like that much. I think a lot more as it puts them in that execute range, right? You get
Yep.
into that execute range a little bit quicker. You know, that Vi is going to be doing a little bit more damage to you. And when you're already going to get hit 10, 11 auto attacks, right? That little bit of 10 AD stacks every single time, right? It's not just 10 AD, it's 10 AD on every auto attack, right? So, they're ripping through these team comps. And in the past, this brawler comp might have taken a little while to win this and might have been a little bit closer, but now we have this damage, especially with that Shyvana, to compensate for what used to be a lack of carry.
Yep, 6 brawlers is going to net 60 AD for all of them, and that is going to be no small number there. Kind of tearing through that composition from A-Ray there. A-Ray just playing like a Nidalee item carrier with that RFC and I believe it was a QSS. So that wants to be a K later on, but it is not going to be the case yet. And Infernix is getting some much needed wins at this point in the game, and I'm glad that we get Infernix's perspective for this, because I was curious about how they would approach this game. Laplace, notably, also still in first, 96 HP. The one that has kind of the ball in their court right now. If they place top 4, I believe they're guaranteed to win tonight.
Destiny in their own hands, as Vlad
Yep.
only gets 1 ult off. Actually, if that Vlad gets a second ult off, this might have been a little bit closer. They probably still would have lost, but maybe by 1 or 2 units less. BKrisz also a whole level behind Infernix right now, who is on a 3-game losing streak. That's why, I say sometimes the HP totals on the right can be a mirage, right? In terms of power level, this is definitely the case, as Infernix probably has one of the stronger comps in the game, especially getting the legendary brawler. That's the hardest part, about the
Yep.
comp. It's hitting the set, and we already have the set, so we are vibing.
just hit not only on the roll down, but just a natural roll in a level 7 shop to hit your one legendary that you actually absolutely pivotably key unit that you need for this composition. You
Yeah,
cannot get much luckier than that.
that's luck.
Woo.
You know, you don't really want to say luck. Everything is skill expression in TFT. That was a little lucky. Any 5-cost unit on the 1% hit is a little lucky.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and Frederick's gonna be happy about that one. We move on over to Raye here, who's still working with 4 sharp shooters. A little bit low on the HP here. Is on 52, and this composition does not look very strong, unfortunately. It is going to be 2.5 items now on the Nidalee, and some good support items on this TF as well. With that Zeke's and the Locket. Kale is already starting to be found for one by IceBarriers there that rolled down. Raye here, if they don't roll soon, all the kills actually might randomly just be gone.
There aren't a lot,
It's 12.
right? Like yeah, that's like that's the biggest thing. Um it seems like there's so many Kales because everyone is running them, right? But everyone is kind of like splitting that power. Like we have had someone running a 1-cost Kale die, and then that 1 cost goes somewhere else, right?
Yep.
And then you get that tier 2 Kale instead. That's why I think Kale can feel like a bait sometimes, is because you can be shoehorned into your singular Kale until people die, right?
Yeah,
And that's going to be all the Kales until someone dies.
exactly. It's like you're with your friends, y'all order a pizza or something, but you got like 20 friends and there's only one pizza. You can't it's gonna be real rough. Dividing that among everybody. And sometimes people just get left out. They never find the kale. And that's hopefully what's not going to happen to Raye here. But still, they got some good stuff working for them with the 4 sharpshooter. And it looks like they're not going to be strong enough, however, to beat the Jirachy. Jirachy with the 6 cultist Galio is going to be a bit too strong.
What do you think of Cultist right now as like a mono comp, like the Cultist 9, right? Why are we seeing so much Warlord 9 and not Cultist 9?
So we're not seeing, I think, things like Cultist 9 because while it scales well into the mid game with Cultist 6, you're always going to be pivoting out of it to synergies that complement the carries a lot better. For Cultist, the carries there are what? They're going to be Callista, they're going to be Sivir. They're not units that the Cultist buff really is going to affect at all. But if you think about Elderwood or like Warlord, they provide like just raw stats for these units to do things with, and so that's why we're going to be seeing a lot more of those comps than the Cultist. The Galio 9 just it isn't really there. It's not going to do enough when we get these massive damage dealers from these other synergies.
Massive damage dealers and TFT. Always such a hit and miss prospect, right? It's either like a fun fantasy or feels not fun to lose against, right? I think Ari was probably the best example of that, as this 1v1 actually.
Oh, that's close.
One auto attack away from the spear, but I feel like Nidalee wins those 7 out of 10 times. So it's okay. It's okay this time that the Vlad wins it this time around. I'm okay with that.
Yep, we reached our stage 4 carousel, and HPs are, they're going to be not looking too hot for the bottom 4 here. There's like an 18 HP gap between 5th and 4th. Jirachy still sitting at the top right now, 82 HP on a win streak. They found themselves here 3 out of 4 lobbies tonight, being well above the majority of the lobby in HP, still in that win streak. It's just how they transition out that is sometimes it appears like not as optimal as it perhaps should be, but still getting to that point, playing strongest board is still very impressive.
I'm actually impressed by a lot of the players today. They've all done something I think that they can be proud of throughout the lobbies today. Literally every single one of them. And so everyone should be really proud of how they played from top to bottom. I think Jirachy should be very proud of themselves by leading the pack throughout, I think, 80% of every lobby. and that this particular strategy is working in a top 4 sense. Remember that we did say that, Jirachy, single persona, Krisz would be, the players that we're looking for to have a little bit of a breakout day. And while I think that experience has been spread out across a couple people, mostly Laplace, I think Jirachy should be very proud of how they've been able to maintain this top 4 through every single lobby, which no one else has done.
Yeah, exactly. Looking like they're going to do it once again in this game, but we still got a bit left. Some players continuing to drop even lower. Raye, BKrisz, all losing these rounds. Raye did find the Kale, actually, finally, but it's still only a Kale 1. Gotta just put in a Chosen Brawler Cho'Gath in there just to have some frontline to work with, but Infernix did have, I believe it was RFC and double Renans on the Shyvana. Real scary stuff. The Pikachu over here is running a Sivir carry, and that's, not where you want to be at this point in the game with no Chosen either.
Sivir carry, another kind of like bait character that I see a lot of beginners and um I would say like plat and below players use, which is she looks good with the items and everything looks like it would be good, but I think a lot of people forget that her base AD is not actually super high, and you're not compensating for that AD enough with that attack speed. It's gonna
Yeah.
work here as I eat my words a little bit, but this isn't going to win a lobby, and if it
No.
does, it's because the lobby is weak,
Oh.
which it's not going to end up winning anyway, as the Pikachu is going to fall in another close bottom 3. Everyone else, this is just one of those lobbies. This is, in my opinion, what happens in reroll metas, right? Is exactly what we're seeing in terms of HP totals
Yeah.
on the right side, because the 18, 15, and 12 might actually be your strongest comps, and they've just been spending more money than everyone else, right? And so they're putting all their eggs in one basket and going for it. Everyone at the top might be paying a little bit passively, and they're all going to meet at level 8 at some point. So that's what's really interesting to me about this particular meta on in a competitive stance.
Definitely. What's interesting to me is how the Pikachu is going to salvage this situation here, because it can't, as you said, be with that Sivir. It won the last round, or no, it lost the last round actually, and it did to a Talon 1 with a GA at the end there. So if that's what you're losing to, you got to feel pretty stressed. But okay, a Samira is exactly the thing that you need right now. Also, 3 Slayer, which has been achieved. Barely put it in time, but all right. I.e., Giant Slayer Runans on this Samira, but it is going up against, I believe that is a Kale 2 on the other side there. Can Samira find her way into the back line?
Kale.
Nope.
They have families.
Nope.
No.
Oh.
Actually, no. In lore, some of their families are already dead. So, but Kale, they have people around them on the board that they have developed relationships with. Let them develop those relationships, Kale. That was a demolishing off the back of one character, pretty much. So, yeah, that's what happens when Kale gets to pop off, friends. And if your Kales aren't doing that, it's one of two things, right? It's one of positioning, where your Kale was in a vulnerable spot, either because of an Aatrox or a Blitzcrank pool from a item on Ornn, or it's that positioning, or it's the best in slot item situation, right? So at this point in the game, those Kale items are specifically amazing. RFC always very good on Kale, and especially if we roll healing, which is a big deal, then we're feeling good. As you can see that the Kale can just pop up in the corner and dig in, as opposed to everyone else who has to really worry about that positioning because of a lack of RFC on that Kale, as Pikachu and Krisz are going to be the first two eliminated, as Krisz started off strong but fizzled there at the end.
Yeah, definitely fizzled. You mentioned perhaps the people who are lowest HP are the strongest in the lobby, but they are definitely still the weakest in the lobby, as they're just getting bullied by everybody else here. Laplace actually going level 9 at 5-3. That is very fast. I would be curious soon to check back in with Laplace, because they got a lot riding on this game.
A lot. I mean, and it's not just today, right? Like, winning a fight night can set you up mentally for a really long time, right? Like, you belong, you're here, you're the winner, right? These are all, challenger and grandmaster players, right? So,
Yep.
you're playing against the best and you're beating the best, and you need to be able to take that and run with it, as we've seen a lot of people do. This time around, the Kale isn't in the safest position, especially with this Cho'Gath being able to take them down. And these brawlers just a little bit too much HP. That set is a big reason why it's there. I believe that's a brawler 8 comp at the moment, and it's on fire right now.
Yeah, Laplace right now taking yet another loss. They are
Patties.
on the cusp of elimination right now. And if so, it gives the chance for the Jirachy to perhaps be the winner tonight. Can they come back here? They're running 6 Dragon Soul right now, but the Olaf only has 1 item. The Swain is only Swain 1. I'm a little worried right now for Laplace.
Fourth lobby curse, maybe. Remember, we said whoever leads in the last lobby has a very hard time in the fourth lobby. That really hasn't been the case over the last 2 weeks, but we're seeing the return of how hard it is to just be good over 4 separate occasions.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't matter if it's TFT, doesn't matter if it's any other game. To be consistently good over 4 lobbies is so hard, and we're seeing exactly how hard that it is, especially this early on in a meta, especially with this particular group of players who all seem to be pretty evenly matched up against each other.
Oh, I don't think is the matchup that you want to run into if you're Laplace. These brawlers are going to be so tanky, and they take out the Olaf immediately. I think this is it for Laplace here tonight.
I do too. Did Laplace do enough to make it into the top 3? We
Oh, it depends
were
on. Okay.
already winning the day, right? So we do have a little bit of wiggle room. Jirachy, they have 1 or 2 points of wiggle room. Another fourth will probably be okay here. And this is a legitimate strategy when it comes to TFT. Just get, third and fourth the whole day.
Yep.
Right? And we've seen already that the Jirachy's in second place because of that. And again, there's a lot of philosophy along with whether that's appropriate or not. I think it's fine. I think consistency is the hardest thing to exhibit in any profession. And to be this consistent is really impressive to me. So mad props to Jirachy and their play all day today. Might not be the most satisfying or amazing view to not see someone win a lobby, but to be this consistent with this lobby in the beginning of a meta and continue to potentially win out on some of these rounds, because that Shyvana hates targeting Kale, apparently. It's going to be the end, though, for Jirachy. 5th place. That should be, I think Jirachy is fine. I think, but
top 3.
yeah, we will see at the end of the day. But the unfortunate thing is people like A-Ray and Single Persona were all in the mix. So
Yeah.
it could potentially mean that both Laplace and Jirachy have a hard time making it to top 3. Again, we'll get to the scores in just a second. Redemption for Single Persona. I hate seeing that. It's not that bad, I guess. It's a heal for
Yeah,
people.
it's actually not the worst. It just it doesn't seem like it complements with this composition very, very well. It's gonna come down to putting it on a unit that exists on the sides of this front line, like a Morgana here. She's gonna get her ulti off faster. She's gonna die because the units are going to be more likely to hit her instead of like the Swain, Fiora, etc. there. But it actually goes in the Swain instead. I actually don't like that decision, to be honest. Swain is oftentimes, depending on positioning and stuff, gonna take longer to die, so that redemption value might be cut just a little bit.
Whoever you put redemption on, this is how TFT works, will not die until everyone else is
Okay.
dead. That's usually how it goes for me, but we're going to go with another Kale comp. This time, IceBarriers with the exact same items we saw with Jirachy, another tier 2 comp. And this is where, again, that positioning becomes so very important. Beautiful taunt from that Shen. And this Kalista should be enough. These Kales
Yep.
losing a little bit of power right now. Again, if they can get to that Kale before the ultimate, then you're feeling pretty good. That did not happen that last round, but because of where the ultimate lined up for that Shen, we got to the Kayle, we got into the Kayle's face. We also got the Kayle to attack an area which wasn't getting AoE damage on the rest of our team, and then we were A-okay from there.
Yeah, actually, so the redemption, funnily enough, got a lot of value, or some value that round, because the Kalista was actually targeting the Swain right from the bat there. So the Swain did fall early in the fight. And Phoenix, however, on this other side of the board, has the Shyvana 3 online, has the set as well, which already got an ultimate off, and this Shyvana is just going to start tearing through single persona's comp here. But maybe the
Well, it's
Fiora
actually,
stunlocks it.
yeah, I mean,
Oh,
Fiora 3 can legitimately, the point is to stun lock you.
yeah.
Fiora 3 will win 90% of 1v1s based on the metering of those stun locks, and that's what's going to happen this time around. And that targeting, it's a positioning thing, so you got to move that
Yep.
Shyvana now, right? That's how you respond to that loss.
100% positioning there. You cannot let, if you're in Phoenix, you cannot let the Fiora be next to the Shyvana. She has to be on the opposite side, and that's so important. I'll make her way over there, because as we just saw, you'll get stun locked, and that'll just be the end of that. IceBarriers as well as in Phoenix is on one potential hit from dying, so we could theoretically see a double kill here.
Is it going to be it for us today? This might be like a record-setting day in terms of quickness, going through 4 lobbies as well. It's still pretty early in the night, as the Jack's actually going to lock up the Kindred, who is going to get at least one ult off, a second one, but that's only 2 units out for IceBarriers, and they get to the Kayle. It's not looking good so far. Targeting on the Fiora is interesting, but again, we are going to be fine as we lock up the Kayle. IceBarriers falls. Infernix did win. Infernix was last place the entire time throughout this lobby, and will finish in at least second. Single Persona is looking like a strong first place opportunity. Will they be able to get through the brawlers?
Ooh, boy, will they be able to get through the brawlers? I mean, if we get another fight like we had a couple of rounds ago, yes. It is a very uphill climb for Infernix, however, seeing as they are, what, 58 HP behind? I think I did my math properly there. But that's a lot of HP to go through. I think you are advantaged, though, if you're single persona. If you can dodge the Fiora randomly getting to the Shyvana and sunlocking it, which I think is doable with some proper positioning. However, blue buff has been found. Okay, actually, I thought the blue buff was going to go on the Fiora, but it actually goes on the Janna instead. I am really sleeping on Fiora, because she is so strong. I want to see how she does in
She's
this fight too.
She's mega strong, especially with the items that we have right now, because once we get to the ultimate, she develops that ultimate so quickly. Look at her go, right? So that was one auto attack before the other ultimate. That was one auto attack before another ultimate. But the positioning diff is there. We have to get the Fiora into the Shyvana's face, or else, I mean, that's how we saw Single Persona win last time. A Lee Sin could be an opportunity to kick someone out, but it's going to be hard to fit them in right now, especially since we did pass one. Whenever there's like mega tanky units, sometimes Lee Sin is the only way you can deal with it. Probably the biggest counter to things like tier 3 Annie.
Yeah. There is so many tanky units, though. Lee Sin can't really kick them all off, especially if Lee Sin is only tier 1 there. Single Persona did roll a little bit here. Nothing really to show for it. Still only on Swain 1. Morgana actually gets hooked in by that Blitzcrank artifact there.
Which is going to cause a free ultimate. Ooh, the Shyvana jumps into the
Oh.
fray. That is not what you want to see. Oh no, a Single Persona will win this lobby, because Shyvana straight up through. That was I've seen that on Summoner's Rift. That happens to the best of us, but that Shyvana was not playing for Infernix that round.
Oh man, yeah, no, Shyvana, sometimes you're doing really good, but sometimes you just run it down and you're just like, all right, ulti in, I want to end this, get it over with. But no, still well played by Infernix there to get to even a second place from being that far behind in HP the whole lobby.
Whew, man, these results. I am very anxious. Oh my god.
Oh, here we have them. Wow, and Phoenix
Oh my
actually
God.
almost made the dream run back into it. 25 points, but narrowly being beat by Laplace there with 2 firsts and 2 sixths, but it is enough to be victorious. Jirachy as well, getting that third place, locking it in with overall pretty consistent scores. Fourth, third, fifth, all around the same bubble there. Pretty solid.
Again, that's why you don't have to win every lobby, right? You can totally be consistent across the board, and it was enough. And the other thing about the Jirachy's position is that they knew all that, right?
Yeah.
That's I think the advantage of being that consistent. As we have an interview already.
Yeah, Laplace, Tails, are you with us?
Hello, hello. I'm here.
Hello, congratulations on winning Fight Night, and that was a close run there at the
Oh,
end.
You
Yeah,
know, I'm very glad that was it Persona. Persona had my back. Like, he got me.
yeah.
That is true. You got to get him some lunch. He ate a smoothie with a spoon on cam the other day, so maybe you can fix that for us.
Yeah, let's not have that happen again.
Okay.
I will not be sending him no smoothies.
Okay. But anyway, congratulations. Really crazy day of games today. Something that Khroen and I were talking about is how the consistency was the inconsistency. Do you think that the scores were so close because of the meta, because of the players that are here? Was it just a pretty stacked lobby? What's your kind of opinion on, kind of all of that?
I guess, like, I don't know. I think for me, at least, like, I felt like the part at least that I felt most consistent about was at least how I was playing the early game and how I felt other people were playing the early game. Because what I noticed a lot was I feel like a lot of people are just so obsessed with like the reroll chosens right now, which is fair. But like I feel like people are like as a result are much more deprioritizing their early games. Like I think in like 3 out of the 4 games, like I leveled to 5 even before carousel, and that allowed me to win streak incredibly hard on people, and that paid off in a couple of the games. So like I'd say like that was at least the part where I noticed like I guess the most consistencies. I don't know.
Yeah. I actually want to expand upon that a little bit. I know you just mentioned that you leveled to level 5 very early, so you have that aggressive leveling pattern working for you. What
Mhm.
else are you prioritizing in your early game to make it consistent? Is there any is it just kind of you playing strongest board, or do you gravitate towards some sort of units or synergies to want to play in the early game optimally?
Yeah, actually, I think the two things I will know is that I think I did mostly chain and sword start this game instead of bow, which a lot of people consider more popular. Like, I think the reason I actually liked sword a lot more was because we were actually getting a lot of like offensive carousels on the first round, which to me means like since there's no chains, like it's actually easier to run an assassin S comp, which is why I went for Talon in game 2. And like that was just like something I looked out for, and I don't know, just trying to play around the meta because like if everyone has bows, like they're just trying like the RFC Rageblade Kale shit, and then it's like, dude, you're just gonna get popped by a Talon. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, exactly. And people kind of sleep on the talent, I think, but it is a great counter to the kill. I think you ran it wonderfully there. So really good identification. Very impressive stuff. I'll pass it back over to Boop if you have any other questions.
Yeah, so something that we like doing here is you have an opportunity to talk to a couple people here in Fight Night Rising that potentially can help you move on your career. So what is next for you? Like what is the plan for TFT? Is this something that you just are good at and are exploring? Are you trying to enter a little bit of this competitively? What's the plan for you?
I think I'm definitely like a borderline competitive player. I would say like I'm definitely trying to get into it a bit more, but like obviously between like school and stuff, it's sometimes hard to like fully commit. So like I don't know, I stream here on the side, like I'll enter tournaments when I can, but yeah, it like I'd say I'm like the in between for fun and serious. Like I guess in my end goal, if anything, would be like just try to create something where I could just help teach people about the game and just how to think for themselves rather than just like follow guides.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a great perspective because even it's something that you noticed today, everyone's like, "Oh, reroll only," but you're like, "No, I don't have to do that. I can play my own early game there." And there's a lot of ways to play TFT, and
Yeah,
recognizing
exactly.
all of those ways, I think is very, very important to be a successful player. So some wonderful insights there. Thank you very much, the boss,
Thank you.
and congratulations again on winning Fight Night. Before you go, if you have any shout outs, where can we find you on your Twitch and Twitter and things like that?
Let's see. T- Twitter, I believe I'm TailsTFT right now, and Twitch, I believe is just Laplace Tails. I think that's really all the social medias that I kind of use. So I think that's all I got. And
All
I don't
right.
know.
Cool.
Thank you everyone for watching.
Of course, man. That was a really good lobby. That was a very, very close lobby, and you came out on top. So congratulations. 1 point
Thank
is
you.
all you needed.
Yeah,
Thanks,
And
we
we'll
take
see
Norbert.
you
those.
next week
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
See you
All right.
next
Take
week.
care.
Take care.
All right, Boop. I liked that. That was
I did too. I like, man, every time we interview someone new, we're like, we like that person.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Because I think we know of a lot of these people, but we never hear them, right? Unless we like
Exactly.
specifically turn into their streams. And I think it's hard to remember that like even behind the screen, there's full lives that people lead, right?
Yeah.
And we never know what it's going to be, but it's so cool to get a little glimpse in what these players are doing every day, even outside of TFT, and how
Yeah.
awesome they are. Really liked them. The good head on his shoulders.
Definitely there. I think just and something that I value just in life in general is people's perspective, and you can get so much good perspective when it comes to TFT, especially there. And the goals that Laplace Tales is trying to accomplish, they're on that kind of border between maybe competitive, maybe still casual, enjoying it a lot, want to spread knowledge, want to help people in TFT community. So yeah, I mean, you can see, I believe, on the screen there, if you enjoyed any of our competitors here tonight, you can go give them a follow if you just scroll over and click on their names. It'll head on over to their streams, and help out the TFT community at large because these are the players that are going to be one day showing up and pulling a new mono and making waves in the North American qualifiers and getting to like that world championships. That's what players, I'm sure, even Laplace Tales, even though they're kind of semi-casual, are gonna probably be thinking about and saying, "And like, what if I can get there? How like cool
Mhm.
would that be? To get an opportunity." So yeah, definitely a lot of
Uh,
love to the
I
TFT community.
Yeah, a lot of love going both ways, and next week it's gonna happen all over again. And on Monday, we're gonna have another qualifier. So
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna be back on Monday doing another qualifier. So that's going to be the snapshots on the leaderboard, and this is going to be the first qualifier for set 4.5. Let me find those details just real quick so I can make sure that I don't tell anyone the wrong thing. And this time it's going to be, I believe, at 7 o'clock on Monday Eastern.
all
And
right.
that's going to be another really great day. It'll be the top 8 supposedly players of of the
Supposedly,
yeah, supposedly. Well, some of the top 8 don't make it because they've either already qualified or
yeah,
haven't done all of the correct things, but should be the best of the best competing on set 4.5 for the first time this set, and that's going to be a really, really awesome day. So please check that out on Monday. I'll be there. I'm sure Khroen will be hanging out as well, and that's going to be right here on this channel.
yeah. Definitely will be excited with all this 4.5 action going on. There's a lot of good TFT content, and I am here for it. So I'll be sure to check that out. Boop. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully it's a good time.
It always is. I mean, to give an example, Talon was the last comp to win on set 4, so
There we
anything can
go.
happen.
Yeah.
And again, right here on the channel, 7 Eastern, it'll be me and Mr. Brian, who is a very, very well known card game player and expert,
Oh
specifically
yeah.
in the Gathering. So it's gonna be a really interesting day.
Definitely. Looking forward to it. But until then, I have to wait just a few days. But that'll do it for here on Fight Night Rising tonight. Had a wonderful time with you, as always, Boopasaurus, sharing the desk, casting some great TFT action. But we will see you here on Fight Night Rising in a week, Monday for the Challenger Series. Check that out, wink, wink. But yeah, I'll do it. Have a good night, everybody. Take care, and goodbye.